10,000 feet up, there is a city that floats. The gods live there. They came down 100 years ago and never left. Everyone else lives on the ground, behind a wall, and is told to be grateful. Once a year, the gods come down to choose which humans they would like to own. They call it a blessing. The chosen human spends the rest of their life as a bodyguard, a pet, a thing. Refusing is not on the menu, which brings us to this boy. He is from a country so small the gods have never heard of it. His entire school is 5 students. The academy kids call them commoners, nobodies, trash, to their faces, for fun. He takes it, every time, without a word. Everyone agrees he is weak. Everyone is wrong, in a way that is about to get very expensive. Because this boy has done all of this before. In a past life, he was the god's finest weapon, and the day he outlived his use, they put him down. Then he opened his eyes at the very beginning, with every memory intact. An awakener gets 1 class if they are lucky. He came back with all of them. He did not return to be blessed. He returned to take that floating city and drop it out of the sky. He will freeze a monster an entire class was ordered to run from. He will walk into a prison the gods built and free the thing chained at the bottom of it. And a city that has hung above the clouds for a century will come apart in the air. None of the gods see it coming. That is the best part, but it starts somewhere much smaller. It starts with a school field trip, a bowl of breakfast, and a very patient trader. The story picks up on a train, not a normal one. It is a bullet line running out to a region called Sangaven, and you need an official permit just to board it. Sangaven is where awakeners go to get stronger, and it is guarded like it. Our commoner and his 4 classmates are riding out there for a school combat trip. The plan is the kind of thing you could print on a laminated card. Find weak monsters, kill them, level up, be back at camp by 6. His classmates take it very seriously. There is a cheerful redhead, a pink-haired girl named Megan, a boy who swears he knows the best grinding spot, and a top student the others treat like a minor celebrity. They are teenagers on a field trip with permission to commit violence, and they are thrilled about it. Elias is not thrilled about anything. Elias is bored. He has 3 separate combat classes, all of them quietly maxed out, and he has been stuck at the same level for over 10 days. The monsters scattered across the border wasteland are, in his professional opinion, garbage. He is a man who has hunted things that could level a city, standing in a field being asked to admire a poison spider. So he keeps his head down. He lets everyone assume he is just another kid who cannot find good prey. It is easier that way. And while 30 children practice their sword swings on the local wildlife, something else is happening a few miles away. In a facility owned by a company called Purple Peak Industries, a plan that is several weeks old is finally ready. We will get to the man responsible. For now, the important detail is that Purple Peak makes monsters, and it has just lost one on purpose. Back at the wasteland, Elias hunts alone. He clears the weak spiders without breaking stride, glances at the loot, and throws most of it away. Low-tier drops just clog his inventory. He is looking for something with a pulse worth taking. What he finds instead is a crystal, drained of every scrap of magic it once held. He pockets it. It seems unimportant. Remember that it isn't. By nightfall, the class is gathered around a campfire, doing a head count. 2 students, Julian and another boy, have not come back yet. Nobody is worried. Everyone should be. Megan, the pink-haired girl, is chatting by the fire, excited about her first trip to Sangaven. And then, mid-sentence, her eyes turn red. Something has been inside the camp the whole time, wearing one of them like a coat. It comes out of her in a spray of green, and the campfire circle becomes a screaming one. The thing that unfolds into the firelight is not a spider, exactly, and not a person, exactly. It is both, which is worse. The system flags it before anyone can ask what they are looking at. B rank, corpse mantis, spider, intelligent, danger, extreme. Origin: a Purple Peak Industries lab. Recommended response: run and pray a real guild team is nearby. There is no real guild team nearby. There is a field full of C-rank children, and one of them who is only pretending to be. Meet the man responsible. He is one of the adults who was sent along to keep these children safe. For the past month, he has been doing the opposite, 1 meal at a time. Every morning, he has laced the students' breakfast with a paralyzing powder, courtesy of Purple Peak. A little more each day so nobody noticed getting weaker. The plan from there is simple, and it is the kind of simple only a certain type of man finds beautiful. Drain everyone until they are helpless. Release a monster that should not exist. And wait in the trees until the whole class is wrecked, terrified, and sure they are about to die. Then he strides out, kills the beast, and becomes the hero who saved them all. He has clearly rehearsed the walk. There is one flaw in the plan, and it is standing by the campfire looking mildly inconvenienced. The monster he let loose is a B rank. The strongest person on this entire trip, students and teachers included, is a C rank. That is not a difficulty gap. That is a category error. Elias knows precisely what that gap feels like, because he has stood in it before. In his last life, he fought an A-rank version of this exact creature, back when he was already powerful, and it cost him everything he had to put it down. So he knows, better than anyone here, what a thing like this does to a field of children. The corpse mantis spider decides to find out. It goes for the students. And the bored boy who throws away his loot quietly decides he has finished being bored. He tells the monster, without raising his voice, not to touch his classmates. Then he opens with a class none of them knew he owned. The air temperature falls off a ledge. Frost floods out of him, his cloud mage skill freezing the moisture in the air itself, and the monster is caught mid-lunge and turned into a sculpture. A B-rank nightmare, solved with weather. His classmates have follow-up questions. The main one is how a registered nuclear warrior just froze a B-rank solid using ice. Someone says the phrase dual-class awakening the way other people say a curse word. They are close. They are also several classes short of the truth, but this is not the moment to hand them the full list. And it would not matter anyway, because the ice is already cracking. An intelligent B-rank does not simply die because the weather changed. It bursts out of the frost, rattled but entirely alive, and the fight everyone assumed was finished turns out to be the opening move. One of the missing boys is down and bleeding. Julian is still nowhere, and the hero in the trees has yet to heroically appear. Strange. The chapter opens on breakfast. Spicy wontons, the morning special, a boy going cheerfully back for seconds. It is the most harmless image imaginable. 30 children, a camp stove, a warm bowl before a day of training. That bowl is the murder weapon. For a solid month, every breakfast on this trip has carried a measured dose of paralyzing powder, ground fine and folded into the food. A little more each morning, so nobody noticed their own strength quietly draining away. The powder came from a company called Purple Peak Industries. So did the monster. By now, the survivors have worked out most of the shape of it, and Scarlet has filled in the rest. She has seen what Purple Peak does behind its walls. Laboratories that grow demon beasts and keep them corked in special containers, like wine nobody should ever open. Out in the trees, she found one of those containers, cracked apart from the outside, on purpose. So the question moving around the firelight is not what came for them. It is why a grown man would drain a field of children of their power and then uncork a nightmare in the middle of them. The answer is standing in the smoke. Green smoke pouring low across the ground, and everyone who breathes it feels the strength go out of them like a pinched wick. It is the breakfast powder again, on the wind this time, and one figure walks through it completely untouched. He is wearing a gas mask. Underneath it, he is wearing a school uniform. It is Julian, the classmate who vanished 2 nights ago, the one everyone has been quietly praying is still alive out there somewhere. He is alive. He was never lost. He was the hand on the inside the entire time. Julian let the monster out. Julian laid the smoke. Julian is the reason no one can run. And now that the plan has come apart in front of him, he does the thing cornered people always do. He blames the boy who broke it. This is all Elias's fault, he insists. And now that everyone knows the truth, nobody is walking out of here alive. Scarlet is bleeding, caught by a shot when the gas went up, and even now she tries to hand him a way out. Maybe he released the monster by accident, she offers. Maybe he can still stop this. She is holding open the one version of tonight where he stays a frightened kid instead of a killer. Julian looks at that open door. Then he levels his weapon at his own classmates instead. Through all of this, Elias has said nothing, which is his standing policy. He stops having a policy now. Goldlight climbs his arms, the nuclear warrior class he keeps folded away under a bored face, and he states the one rule he will not bend. Your weapon does not point at your own people. The lightning arrives before Julian's shot can land. The weapon breaks apart, and a breath later, so does the boy holding it. There is a scream, and then the smoke rolls over a very quiet patch of ground. Here is the part these children will never be told. In a life none of them know about, someone Elias trusted turned on him in exactly this way, and it was the end of him. He did not survive it. He came back from it, which is a colder and lonelier thing. So he does not lecture the traitor, and he does not forgive him. He gives him the single verdict he has carried across 2 lifetimes. Traitors are unforgivable. But Julian was only ever the hand. He was never the head. And somewhere out past the light, the man who designed all of this is still crouched in the dark, waiting for his cue to walk out and be thanked. The traitor on the ground was only ever the hand. The mind behind all of this has spent the night hidden in the tree line, watching a month of patient work finally pay off. The students drag him out into the firelight. And the architect of a plan to murder 30 children turns out to be a sweating, blubbering coward. He weeps. He was terrified, he says. He never really believed he could beat the monster himself. If they would all just let him explain, his explanation is that this is somehow Elias's fault. that if the boy had only stayed weak like he was supposed to, none of this would be happening. Someone claps a hand over his mouth before he can get any further. The children look at the man who poisoned them by the spoonful for a month and arrive together at the same word for him. He watches that word land on their faces and concludes, out loud, that Elias is definitely about to kill him. For once in his life, the coward is reading the room correctly. But his reckoning has to wait, because the reason any of this started is done waiting. The corpse mantis spider comes back. The ice that caught it has long since failed, and it has used the lull the way its kind always does. It has changed its color to match the dark, and for a moment no one can find it at all. Then it is simply there, mid-lunge, and the fight restarts with a fresh body already on the grass. Scarlet is down and badly hurt. The teacher, Miss Huang, is somewhere in the smoke, calling names into the noise. Elias goes to work, and for the first time on this whole miserable trip, he is not bored. His lightning lands clean, and the monster shrugs it off and melts straight back into the background. That is the problem with this thing. It is a B rank, and a B rank does not lie down because you hit it hard one time. He weighs doing this alone and does not care for the conclusion. By himself, he probably cannot put it down before it puts down everyone still breathing. A monster like this, loosed on a field of children, was never a fight. It was an execution with the clock running. The fix for that is not to hit harder. He has spent this entire trip being one anonymous weak student, hunting alone, throwing his loot away, keeping every class but one a secret. Hunting alone is the reflex of someone who has only ever been able to count on himself. It is also, right now, precisely the wrong instinct. One classmate is still on her feet beside him, a girl named Orion, blade up, asking if he is good to keep fighting. The monster blurs out of sight again, and this time Elias does not chase it. He watches how it moves. He watches, more carefully, for the instant it chooses to stop. He has noticed something, and the thing he has noticed is the thing that ends this. Not by his hand alone, and not yet. He looks at Orion, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes he says it and fully means it. Time to try some actual teamwork. Out in the dark, the monster settles in, invisible and patient, waiting for something soft to feed on. Feeding, as it happens, is the one thing it does not survive. 2 people are still standing when the rest of the camp is down. Elias, and the one classmate who refuses to fall back, Orion. She is already hurt, running on fumes, and she tells him his reflexes are good, and then tells him not to get himself killed, proving it. Everyone else is on the ground, paralyzed by a month of poisoned breakfasts, watching through eyes that still work while nothing else does. So the 2 of them are not the best option left. They are the only one. The monster tests them both and finds them harder than anything else it has swallowed tonight. Orion's strikes are clean. His are cleaner. Neither of them leaves a single mark. The corpse mantis spider carries the defense of a peak B rank, which means their blades skate off its hide like it is armored in glass. At their level, the 2 of them could hack at that shell for a year and never crack it. So Elias stops trying to crack it. He fought this creature's larger cousin once, in a life he does not talk about, and he remembers the single ugly truth of how it works. It is armored everywhere, always, except in the seconds it opens itself up to feed. It only ever takes a wound while it is eating. That is the whole game then. You cannot break its guard, so you make it drop its guard, and you make certain you are standing in the gap the instant it does. It is the make-or-break moment of the entire night, and it lasts about 1 heartbeat, so they give the thing something it cannot refuse. They bait it, dangle an opening in front of it, and let hunger make the decision that caution never would. It works because a predator like this cannot help itself. It commits. It lunges to feed. For one breath, the armor parts, and the soft thing underneath is bare to the night. The moment it locks onto the meal, it tunnels down onto what is in front of it and forgets the entire rest of the world exists. It forgets Orion completely. Elias calls it the instant the window opens. Orion is already moving before the word is out of his mouth. 1 strike, threaded clean into the gap, into the one place on this monster that has ever been able to bleed. For the first time all night, the thing bleeds. And in the half second it has left to think, you can watch it understand exactly what was just done to it. It drops. An entire class of paralyzed children watches a B rank fall to 2 of their own, and the field goes very quiet. It should be over. But an intelligent B rank is a hard thing to kill all the way through, because it is still moving. Wounded, sinking, dying by inches, and it has just made a decision of its own. It would rather run than finish this honestly. And Elias, watching it gather itself to bolt, has already seen this exact monster wriggle out of 1 death tonight. He is not feeling generous about a second. The monster does what cornered things do when they are hurt but not finished. It runs, and Elias has watched this exact creature slither out of a death once already tonight, back when his ice first caught it and it shattered its way free. Not a second time. He switches classes in the open now, without hiding it, because the time for hiding is over. The temperature collapses. This is the same frost his classmates glimpsed once, and decided, generously, must mean he was dual-classed. They undercounted. He does not merely chill the air this time. He builds a prison out of it, seals the fleeing monster inside a tomb of ice, and holds it shut. Then he switches again, back to the gold lightning, and cashes in every wound the thing has taken all night in one stroke. The corpse mantis spider, an entire class was ordered to run from stops existing in a single flash. Orion has been counting. She saw the lightning, then the frost, and now the lightning again, and she says the number out loud like she cannot quite make it fit. 3 classes. It is not 3. It is nowhere close to 3. But this is not the moment to hand her the full list, so he lets 3 stand. He switches one final time, to something none of them have a name for, and reaches down for the flower beast lying dead at his feet. A summoner of the right rank can bind a defeated beast's soul into his service, and he does exactly that, and gives the new thing a name. Bruiser. Then Orion does the kindest thing anyone does for him on this entire trip. She has already worked out that he hid all of this straight through their graduation exam, that being underestimated is the whole point of him, and she simply decides his secret is safe with her. About then, the cavalry finally shows up. A God's Guild rescue squad, Squad 26, jogging into a battlefield that is already finished. They find a dead B rank and a handful of shaking teenagers, and they cannot quite believe either one. As for the man who started all of it, the wasteland handles him without any help at all. He flees into the jungle, finds the monster he raised and paid for, and orders it to obey. It was supposed to devour the children. It devours him instead. The guild notes, with professional interest, that a corpse mantis spider raised properly makes a fine asset, and moves on. So the traitor gets exactly one mourner, and it is the thing he loved most, and the arc that opened on a spiked bowl of breakfast closes over his bones. On the train home, Elias turns over the only thing that matters to him. Every rank worth having, C and above, is a monopoly the gods and their divine race keep for themselves. If he wants back the thing he came back for, he has to climb inside that monopoly and take it apart from within. The coastal tunnel swallows the train. When it lets go, the city on the far side is Sandhaven, and Sandhaven is where the gods keep their favorite children. Sandhaven does not look like a place that produces people. It looks like a place that produces gods, which is nearer the truth than anyone there would say out loud. The train platform alone is 50 times the size of anything Elias's classmates have ever seen, and they say so, loudly, like tourists. This is the beating heart of the Awakener world, and its heart is the Divine Armament Academy. The Academy is, without argument, the #1 institution of its kind on the planet. Every year, it reaches across the entire globe and selects roughly 100 students, aged 15 to 18, and no one else. To even sit its entrance exam, you must already be B rank, which is rare enough that most nations manage only a handful a year. Elias listens to all of it and quietly files the academy under things he intends to have. His classmates are still gawking up at a statue in the plaza when the day turns. The statue is one of the 5 creator gods, a Thebes, carved 50 feet tall so nobody forgets whose ground they are standing on. And while the out-of-towners crane their necks at it, the locals arrive. The locals attend the Supreme Private Academy, and they wear it like a title of nobility, because to them it is one. They roll in late and unbothered, informing no one in particular that they were out clearing dungeons all night and simply needed their sleep. Then they notice the 5 kids from out of town. The math takes them a second. An entire visiting school of exactly 5 students strikes them as hilarious, and they say so. Vassaltown kids, they decide. Commoners. The genuine article. When Elias's classmates explain that 5 is not the delegation, 5 is the whole school, the laughter turns cruel. Naturally, they explain, public school nobodies could never grasp how the good life actually works. They recite their advantages like a menu, resources the peasants cannot dream of, an entire academy that exists to serve them and them alone. One of them, barely a junior, brags that he is already level 30, C rank, a single step short of B, and bound for the academy without question. They are children reading their own inheritance aloud, and they are enjoying it enormously. Notice what is missing from this scene. Not one of them raises a hand. The cruelty is entirely verbal, entirely casual, delivered to the faces of 5 strangers purely for the sport of it. This is the wound the whole story is built on. A boy stands in a strange city and is informed by children that he is nothing. And the boy who once served the gods themselves, who clawed his way out of the grave with every class an Awakener can hold, says nothing at all. He takes it. He takes it the way he has taken it every single time, because a man quietly planning to drop their entire world out of the sky can afford to be called a nobody for one more afternoon. He does make himself one private promise, standing there in the noise. He is going to reach B rank. He is going to walk through the academy's front gate, and the ones laughing at him now are going to remember, eventually, that they laughed first. The mockery has a punchline, and the punchline is the thing these kids are chasing. More than anything, they want to be chosen as God's blessed. To be one of the owned, a God's personal guard, a God's pet, a God's favorite possession, strikes them not as a nightmare, but as the highest honor a person could be handed. One of them talks about clawing his way to a God's side the way other people talk about heaven. Elias hears the word blessed and keeps his face perfectly still, which costs him something. He has already been exactly what they are dreaming of. He clawed his own way to a God's side once, in a life he paid for in full. He was the finest weapon they ever owned, and the day his usefulness ran dry, the master he served put him in the ground. So the word does not settle on him the way it settles on a star-struck child. He has already spent one entire life making himself into a God's dog. Never again. It helps to know the story the gods tell about themselves, because everyone in Sandhaven has been raised inside it. 100 years ago, the world came apart. Monsters carrying impossible magic poured into the human realm, and humanity, hopelessly outmatched, began to lose. Then 5 godlike beings descended out of the sky, shielded the survivors, and butchered the beasts. Humanity has worshipped them ever since as saviors, which is the flattering word for it. The 5 handed their rescued humans knowledge and power, and also chains, turning the conquered armies into slaves for the rest of their lives. They also fathered children with humans, and those direct descendants became the divine race. That divine race now holds the leash on everything. The Gods Guild that is the strongest military on Earth, every Awakener Academy in every nation, the ground and the whole sky above it. This is the history they teach in the schools, and every child in Sandhaven can recite it, and Elias is one of the few who knows which parts they cut. Then the dream itself comes calling. The Thebes family, descendants of a creator god, keep a God's blessed named Linus, and Linus arrives looking for one specific student. He is looking for Elias. It turns out that when Elias cleared a B-rank dungeon inside a training simulation, he did it with a perfect score, and the divine race found that fascinating. So the Thebes extend an invitation the other students would trade limbs for, come and observe their coming hunt festival, up in their own territory, in the floating city itself. His classmates lose their minds. This is noble-only ground, sacred ground, and they are being waved straight through the gate. Elias is thinking about none of that. He is thinking that after 100 years and 1 execution, he is finally being invited back up to the place where the gods live. The divine race and the boy they threw in the dirt are about to stand in the same room. He looks up toward the city in the clouds, and he keeps his expression very calm. So, he thinks, we meet again. Up in the floating city, the Thebes keep their art in a private gallery, and their eldest son keeps a philosophy about it. He likes to say art is the only lasting mark humanity leaves on this world, which is a lovely sentiment from a family that owns the world. This is Shin Thebes, eldest son of the bloodline that rules Sandhaven, seated at the very top of the food chain. When the visiting students fail to bow quickly enough, they are corrected. You do not simply look a member of the divine race in the eye like some brain-dead commoner. They bow. The festival is held in the Sky City's central hunting grounds, and the grounds are the size of a small country. It is an enormous walled arena, stocked with demon beasts, and the students gape at it exactly as intended. Among the competitors are 2 more divine race scions, a brother and sister, Luca and Alice King. Luca makes his entrance by ordering an iced coffee, 3.5 pumps of sugar, which tells you most of what a hunt festival means to him. 3 divine families gathered in one place is apparently a rare event, and the crowd behaves like it. Then the rules are read out. Awakeners against demon beasts, and the Awakeners came from open registration, which is a polite way of saying anyone desperate enough signed up. Normally, bringing down even a single monster of your own rank takes a full squad working together. And no one entered here is permitted to be B rank, so every human on that field is, at best, a C. The reward for winning is the sort of number that makes desperate people ignore all of the above. Then comes the detail that turns the room cold. Each competitor is expected to solo their monster, 1 student, 1 C-rank beast alone. The entrants do the arithmetic on that, and the phrase that surfaces is death sentence. A few of them announce, sensibly, that they would prefer to choose life. And then the officials reach Elias, the scrawny, out-of-town kid with the white hair, and put the same question to him. Kill 1 C-rank beast, right now, alone. Elias considers it. Then he tells them 1 sounds boring, and that since he is already standing here, they might as well sign him up for the whole festival. All of it. Every monster in the arena. Hundreds of them, A thing no sane person would attempt, offered in the flat tone of a man ordering lunch. The room does not understand what it just heard. He wants to hunt the entire grounds by himself, they repeat back to him, still waiting for the punchline. There is no punchline. Privately, his reasons are not brave ones. Wild C-rank beasts have gone nearly extinct out in the world, and this walled arena is the fastest pile of experience anyone will ever hand him. Every last member of the three divine families is watching from the stands, which is in fact the entire point. He means to give them a show they will not forget, and he means to make them regret every second of it later. Elias volunteering to solo the entire festival shakes something loose in the crowd. If the white-haired nobody is taking on all of it, the other competitors decide they will not be shown up, and hands start going into the air. 8 more sign on at once, including a 5-person squad from a Sandhaven private academy and a 2-person team out of Elias's own country. One half of that pair is Orion, who has followed him in on the sound theory that he should not be left unsupervised. Up in the stands, the divine race does what bored rich people do with a spectacle. They bet on it, and when the odds reach the scrawny, out-of-town punk, the nobles laugh and tell one another to kiss their money goodbye. They are wagering against Elias. They are betting against the one person in this arena who is going to end them, and they will die, never knowing they were warned. Down on the field, the hunt begins, and Elias's party heads straight for the ground everyone else avoids, the deep forest, the dark mist, where the worst things live. They start clearing beasts at a pace that makes the officials lean forward in their seats. Then the forest offers up a real one. A C-rank Frostblaze dragon uncoils out of the cold, a monster a full squad would rightly fear, and it looks at these 2 children as a snack. This is the moment Elias would normally play careful. Instead, he opens a combination, and the combination is the entire secret he has been keeping, spent all at once. A poisoned blade opens the dragon up. Then the air itself freezes and locks the wounded thing in place. Then venom-soaked arrows, then a blade that flies on its own, each strike coming from a different discipline, a different class, a different fighter he has no business being. He finishes with a charge held to the last possible instant and let go, a single detonation that scatters the frost dragon across the snow. What it leaves behind is loot, dragon bone and dragon tail, and a silence where a C-rank monster used to be. By the time the officials finish the tally, this small party has cleared 30 beasts, and the stands have stopped laughing. Then the leaderboard settles. First place goes to Orion Ang, second to a green-haired opportunist named Alexander Yin. Third, carefully, deliberately, is Elias. He soloed a frost dragon, and he is sitting in third, and that is not an accident. He could top this board without breaking stride, and he has chosen not to. The whole purpose of coming back with every power a person can hold is that no one is supposed to know he holds them. So he throttles himself down to third, buries the rest of the list, and lets the crowd write him off as lucky. The gods wanted a show. They are getting one, they are reading it completely wrong, and that is exactly the shape he needs it to take. The last time these families laid eyes on this boy, they were lowering him into a grave. This time they are only out some money, from their thrones in the clouds, laughing. And nobles who bet on a sure thing do not lose it gracefully. Somewhere above the arena, the ones who just watched a nobody kill a dragon are already deciding that if he will not lose on his own, they will simply have to arrange it. The leaderboard does not care who is supposed to win. 3 names sit at the top of it, and all 3 belong to the commoners. The academy students have spent the whole week calling these people nobodies, trash, a throwaway school of 5. Now the throwaway school is in 3rd place and climbing. A divine race student watches the numbers move and cannot get his face to agree with them. He says it out loud, the way you'd report a crime. That pack of losers has clawed its way to 3rd. Someone beside him offers the calm view, never underestimate an underdog, and gets ignored, because that is not why they came. They came to watch commoners lose, and the commoners are refusing. So the elites do what people with power do when the game stops flattering them. They change the game. The rule is public and simple. Only C-rank awakeners may compete. One of them points this out. Another waves it away with a sentence somebody should really carve into a wall. They are the divine race, he says. They are the rules. The plan from there is short. If the commoner will not lose on his own, arrange for him to lose. And if arranging it happens to kill him, one of them shrugs, he can die for all they care. They turn to the Thebes family, the hosts, the ones sitting on a cage full of trump cards. Whatever monsters you've been holding back, they say, release them all. Down in the grounds, that order arrives in person. A cosmic elephant, Luvis 29, comes down on a commoner named Lewis. Lewis is not Elias. Lewis is an ordinary C-rank child who came to a festival and is now begging for help that no one with power intends to send. A tone sounds. The board updates. Lewis, eliminated. The elites take this beautifully. One of them laughs that now it's finally interesting, that it's only fun when there are real stakes. Somewhere off to the side, one of the adults who arranged all this realizes he never warned the children to keep clear of the black mist at the center, and decides, after a moment, that this is not his problem. Meanwhile, the actual problem is a few miles off, being bored again. Elias meets one of those trump card monsters, a stone ape, and files it under chores. He beats it down into a fistful of meteorite drops without changing expression, and the board ticks him up another 30 points. And here is the detail the watchers keep circling. Every single time, he wins with a sword. He has put down everything they've thrown at him using one class, the warrior, and only that one. They think this means it's all he has. It is not. The truth is on his status screen, where no one else gets to look. Every class he uses in a fight earns its own experience, separately, all at once. Each line carrying a multiplier no single class awakener will ever post. Which is a quiet, ruinous advantage and exactly the kind of thing you do not demonstrate in front of a stadium of gods. So he keeps the sword out and the rest of the list folded away. The problem is that hiding has a cost. His other classes are starving for real fights, and there are far too many eyes on the open grounds to feed them. He needs somewhere with no cameras and no witnesses. His gaze drifts to the one place on the map everyone was ordered to avoid. The Black Mist Forest, dead center, where the monsters get worse and the feeds get thin. Perfect. Elias has a math problem. 2 of his classes have barely leveled. The festival is nearly over, and he cannot grind them in front of an audience. He needs to disappear, and he needs a reason nobody will question. The board hands him one. A new name surfaces near the top, and it does not belong to a student. Gannicus. He is a god's blessed. A human a god has personally claimed and powered up, and he is a B rank. Every child in this contest is a C rank. That is not a competitor joining the bracket. That is an adult wading into a children's race. No one arranged him by accident either. A god's blessed does not simply wander into a school festival because the door was open. He proves the gap at once, dropping a cosmic elephant in a single motion and vaulting straight for first. The students who spent the afternoon fighting for the top 4 watch 4th place get quietly gutted and understand they are no longer the story. Above the grounds, a noble laughs that he's just smoked the Thebes air. This was arranged, of course. Using a god's blessed as your stand-in is, even the other nobles admit, playing dirty. They admit it while placing their bets on it. This is the other half of the festival, the half the students never see. The gods sit in a lounge and wager fortunes on which child lives. The host invites them to sweeten the pot and to move their money onto whoever they please, no loyalties required. Most of it slides toward Gannicus, because most people bet on the sure thing. One of them does the opposite, leaning back and putting another 100 million on the commoner. The table thinks he's lost his mind. He asks whether they've got the nerve to bet against him, and he asks it smiling, like a man holding a card no one else has seen. His name is Shin, and he is not done being interesting. Then the hosts announce the finals, and the finals come with a prize. Not gold. An oracle ring, a favor each god may grant exactly once in an entire lifetime. The kind of favor that walks a condemned man out of his own execution. Even a death sentence, someone explains, can be cashed in for a full pardon. The lounge goes quiet in the specific way rooms go quiet around real power. And every child still standing now has a reason to become dangerous. Down on the grounds, Elias's own teammates finally do the emotional math on him and land on the wrong answer that flatters them. He must have carried the team all week because he was worried about them. He was not worried about them. Elias watches the ring appear on the board and runs the arithmetic a second time. To win this, he has to stop pretending. To stop pretending, he has to vanish from every screen in the building. So he arranges the one accident nobody would ever suspect a commoner of engineering. His feed stutters. It buzzes. It dies. The picture goes to static and stays there. Up in the lounge, the noble who bet on him watches the dead feed and his smile widens. So, he murmurs, "You're finally about to stop holding back." Nobody else in the room understands what they've just lost the ability to watch. That is the point. Off camera, with no one left to perform for, the board boy finally reaches for the rest of the list. With the cameras dead, Elias opens the rest of the list. Somewhere off every screen, a bored teenager quietly turns into something else. He cycles his classes one after another, feeding each of them the fights he's been starving them of, leveling all of them at the same time. Frost for one beast, gold lightning for the next, a summoned swarm for the one after that, a different specialist stepping forward for every kill. It is the most complete display of what he actually is that this festival has ever nearly witnessed, and it happens entirely in the dark. The audience cannot see any of it. What the audience can see is the number. His score, attached to a black rectangle, begins to climb at a rate that makes people lean toward their monitors. Then it climbs faster. He jumps to third, closes on second, and pulls even with first, and his feed is still showing nothing but snow. A spectator asks whether the system is broken. Another asks how a boy earns that many points the instant his stream goes dark. The word that keeps surfacing is sandbagging. Was he holding back this entire time, the whole time he fought beside his own team? One Divine Race student watches the black rectangle overtake his own live feed and comes apart about it, demanding to know how a boy this far beneath him is suddenly ahead. Another says it plainly and hates how it sounds. That is not humanly possible. It isn't. That has never once stopped him. Up in the lounge, Shin watches his 100-to-million bet start looking like the smartest money in the room and says nothing, because smug is a thing you can do quietly. To feed the last of his classes, Elias needs bigger prey, which means going where the warnings point. The dead center of the grounds, the black mist forest, the single zone the organizers told every soul here to stay out of. He walks in. Inside, the monsters are finally worth his attention, and he clears them, contracting their souls as he goes, a summoner quietly building a roster out of the dead, 5 contracts filled, and reaching for a 6th. And then, deep in the mist, something interrupts the grind. A sound that is not a sound. A pull behind his ribs, like a second heartbeat that isn't his. It gets louder the deeper he goes, until it resolves into a voice, and the voice knows him. It calls him by a name he has not worn in this life. The thing in the dark offers to sweeten a deal, a signing bonus, it says, almost fondly. Elias asks what it will cost him, and the voice answers with the front half of a sentence that explains his entire second life. When you return to the past, it says, he has heard this before. He heard it once, at the very beginning, from a demon named Belphegor, on the far side of a bargain that set the terms of his return. He had taken that deal, at the time, because the only thing on the other side of it was staying dead. Whatever the price of coming back was, it was never paid in full. Standing in a forest the gods forbade, with no witnesses and nothing left to hide, he decides the account has been open long enough. It's time, he says, to hold up his end. Then the mist folds shut behind him, and the ground in front of him is no longer where any map says it should be. Up in the safe zones, Elias's teammates are staring at a board that no longer includes him. 4 of the top spots belong to their tiny country, which ought to be a celebration. Instead, their vice captain has walked clean off the map, and one green-haired teammate is doing quiet arithmetic of a different kind. The hunting grounds, someone explains, come in 3 layers: a basic zone, a high-difficulty zone, and the black mist forest at the core, where the monsters thin out and turn lethal. For a commoner to be farming points this fast, he'd have to be pushing straight into the worst of it, which is exactly what worries the ones who like him. Alexander Yin is not one of the ones who like him. He has spent this entire festival standing next to a miracle and being overlooked for it. He looks at the gap where Elias's score used to be, and instead of worry, he feels an opening. If the commoner drops off the map for good, he thinks, the divine race will finally have no choice but to notice him. He decides that outcome would suit him nicely, and he keeps that thought behind a concerned expression. Elias, for his part, has a more pressing problem. He cannot leave. He carved a marker into a tree, walked a dead straight line, made no turns, and arrived back at the marker. He does it again, same result. He recognizes it the way you recognize an old trick, a ghost wall, a loop stitched into the forest to keep intruders wandering in circles until it kills them. Most people would panic here. Elias closes his eyes instead. Don't trust what you see, he tells himself. Don't trust what you hear. Trust the pull. That second heartbeat is still there, still tugging, and he follows it blind, straight past every illusion the forest keeps holding up for his eyes. It walks him to the one spot the loop was built to hide, and the ground opens. A chasm sits where his memory swears there was never a chasm, not in this life, not in the last one, not on any map the gods ever published. He has stood on these grounds before, in a life he is not supposed to remember, and this abyss did not exist. Which means someone went to real trouble to make sure it stayed unfound. He switches to a class that can survive the fall, and steps off the edge. He drops a long way. The ruins at the bottom are old in a way that has weight, broken pillars, scorched stone, the leftovers of some war nobody bothered to write down. Something enormous weighted down here through all of it. His arrival wakes it up. The system does him the courtesy of a full description. A Death Soul Warrior. Level 34. B rank. Intelligent, danger, extreme. It is not the sort of thing a C-rank festival is supposed to contain, which is precisely why it was hidden this far down. Far above him, his score does not just stop climbing. It vanishes off the board entirely, the way a signal vanishes when there is no longer anything left to send it. His teammates watch the empty space where his number used to be and go cold, and the captain calls his name into a feed that answers with nothing. His pink-haired teammate whispers that he'd better be okay. He is at the bottom of a hole the gods buried on purpose, alone, and the thing set to guard it has just registered that he's real. Up top, the festival is not going the way the brochure promised. The elites who released the trump card monsters discover there are no exits, no mercy rule, no quitting any time the way they were assured, only students bleeding in a forest that will not let them leave. It turns out a game rigged to kill one commoner does not check who else is standing in the room. Then the clock runs out on the regular round. A chime announces the obvious, time's up, the main phase is over, and the surviving students exhale. They exhale too early. The hosts have one more surprise, and they deliver it like a game show reveal, a final bonus round. A boss showdown. The final boss is being loosed into the hunting grounds, they announce, so treat this as your last shot at a comeback. Then the ground shakes, and the thing they release is not a comeback opportunity. It is a towering corpse beast, big enough that the word dragon starts getting thrown around, and it sends whatever's left of the field sprinting for the exits they were promised existed. The bonus round, it turns out, is the hosts feeding their surviving guests to a monster and calling it generosity. That is the crisis everyone up there will be talking about. It is not the important one. The important one is at the bottom of the abyss, where Elias stands across from his B-rank guardian with no audience, no teammates, and no intention of losing. He opens the way he always opens against something this dangerous. He reaches for the ice prison, the trick that once turned a nightmare into a sculpture. On a B rank, it fails. The frost forms and shatters, and the guardian steps out of it entirely unbothered. So he stops hunting for a shortcut and settles in for the long version. He cycles everything he owns: the sword, the frost, the summons, the lightning, trading blows, eating hits, learning the fight, one exchange at a time. He calls up Thorny to bite at its flanks, blocks what he can, and pays for the rest in blood. And on the status screen no one can see, every class in that rotation climbs. His nuclear warrior ticks over to 30, his cloud mage to 28. He is being ground down and leveling up in the very same motion, which is the entire reason a sane person picks a fight this far over his head. There is no honor in it and no audience for it, just a boy using a B-rank monster as a whetstone. Eventually, the enormous thing stops getting back up. Fighting above his weight class, he admits to the empty ruin, is rough. He says it like a man who fully intends to keep doing it. With the Guardian dead, something else finishes counting. A meter he's been quietly filling, stellar elemental absorption, hits its ceiling. The system chimes with the good kind of news for once. A new class is about to unlock. And past the body, at the far end of the ruin, there is a door. He can open it now. He does. Behind it is not treasure and not a way out. Behind it is a second B rank, a soul-stealing corpse, a flower mage, intelligent, danger extreme, waiting exactly as patiently as the first one did. Whatever the gods locked away down here, they did not trust a single guardian to keep it, and Elias has just cleared the first of them to learn there are more. The abyss, it turns out, has floors, and he has only just reached the second one. The new class arrives mid-descent, unannounced, and immediately useful. A red light resolves into a status line, Stellar Mage, Level 1. It is, the system notes, the same class the divine race prodigy Alexander was so proud of owning. The prized talent of the boy who wants Elias dead has just become one more line on a commoner's endless roster. Elias now has it at rank E, and will have it maxed by the time it matters, which for him is usually a matter of minutes. He does not stop to admire it. He carves through the second guardian and into the chamber past the door, and the chamber changes the temperature of the whole story. The walls are covered in runes, old ones, the kind of engraving you only build around something you are genuinely afraid of. And in the center, wrapped in a chain the system rates at S rank, hangs a prisoner. The restraints have names, and the names are a warning in themselves. An infernal chain, a star soul lock, hardware the gods reserve for things they cannot afford to have loose. Silver hair, eyes that open slowly, like they've had a long time to practice patience. The system refuses to print what he is. It only warns that the classification does not go high enough to hold him. This is a demon lord, one the gods did not kill because they could not. So they chained him and buried the chain under a festival for children and trusted everyone to forget. Elias looks up at the hanging figure and calls him by name. The prisoner goes still. No one has spoken that name to him in centuries, and a commoner child has no business knowing it at all. Before he can ask how, Elias tells him the rest. He is here to break him out. The demon lord has heard a great many promises across however long this chain has held him. He asks, dryly, how a peak D-rank child intends to manage that. Elias worked the answer out before he ever walked in. The lock needs a key, and the key is not a key, it's a weapon, carried by the guardian the gods left standing watch. He does not explain this so much as let the prisoner catch up to it, which is precisely when the guardians arrive. More of the dead pour into the chamber, a death soul warrior at the front of them, spawned to make certain the last sound down here is a scream. A single B-rank guardian would be a death sentence for any C-rank child. There is more than one, and Elias does not so much as change his stance. Elias does not look afraid, and the demon lord notices that before anything else, he has seen fear and defiance, and the particular bravado of people who are about to die badly. This is none of them. So Elias lays out his offer: break the chain, and every dead thing in this room stops being the god's weapon and starts being theirs. Free me, he says, and you get to turn all of it on the people who put you down here. For a long moment, the oldest thing in the room studies the youngest. Then the demon lord smiles, because this is the most interesting thing that has happened to him in a very long time. Fine, he says, you're on. If you can really get me out of here, the guardian the gods left in charge is not the one Elias already put down. It is worse. A Death Soul General, level 40, a full grade of B rank above the boss that nearly finished him a room ago. Its first swing tells him everything he needs to know about the gap between them. The attack power alone is enough to make him respected out loud, and Elias does not, as a rule, respect things out loud. On a generous day, with a weapon in his hands, he is peak D rank. The general is B rank and carries no weapon at all, because it has never once needed one. Taking on a monster this many grades above him, he notes, is the kind of plan that gets a person killed. He is going to do it anyway. He tests it the honest way first, blade against a thing that needs no blade. He blocks the opening strike, parries the second, and for half a second it almost looks survivable. Then the general slides through his guard and opens a wound across him, and the fantasy of a fair trade leaves with the blood. So he does the sensible thing and stops pretending he can win this straight. He summons Thorny, the thorned beast, to steal him angles the general won't be watching. Thorny lasts about as long as nerve lasts against arithmetic. A single exchange leaves the summon torn open, and he yanks it back before the fight becomes a burial. Fall back, he tells it. There is no version of this where he trades blows with a B rank and comes out the other side ahead. So he stops swinging for a kill he cannot land and starts hunting for one opening instead. He blinks out of a strike that had his name written on it. He switches to Cloud Mage, and the ruin's temperature drops through the floor. Ice Prison. And he already knows the frost will not hold a B rank, because he watched it shatter on the last one. That is not what it's for this time. It is for 1 second. The general seizes up, and for exactly that long, every ounce of its attention goes to cracking the ice instead of tracking the boy. There, he thinks. The hesitation. He drives a full power strike into the blind spot while the monster is looking the wrong way. It connects. It wounds the thing. It still does not drop it. A B-rank general does not fold because a D-rank hit it clean, and he never expected it to. And that would be a serious problem, if dropping it were the plan. It isn't. The whole reason he came down here is hanging in a chain across the room, and that chain answers to one specific object. The key to an S-rank lock is not shaped like a key. It is the sword clenched in the general's fist, which quietly rewrites the entire fight. He does not have to defeat a B-rank general. He has to take one thing off it and reach the prisoner before the general reclaims what he stole. It stops being a duel and becomes a robbery with a countdown. Whoever closes a hand around that weapon first wins the whole exchange, and for the moment it belongs to the thing built specifically to keep it. So the question is no longer whether a peak D-rank child can kill a B-rank general. The question is whether he can be faster than it for exactly one motion, at exactly the right time. And being faster than something stronger has been his entire trade since the day he came back. Before he takes the key, the story stops for a memory. In his last life, long before any of this, Elias had a master, the one man who looked at a caged, broken prisoner and decided to bet on him. And that master had exactly one complaint about his disciple. The boy had no one. He sits Elias down and tells him plainly that he's carrying it wrong, that thinking you're the best while everyone else only drags you down is no way to live a life. Elias says it isn't like that. He's just not good with people. The master stubs out a cigarette and calls that what it is, an excuse. The two of them get along fine, he points out, so the door isn't broken. Elias simply won't walk through it. That's different, Elias says. You're my master. The master does not accept it. To him, the disciple who won't trust anyone is a wound, not a personality, and he has decided to do something about it. He has a squad already picked out, hand-chosen elites, the best of the best, and he wants Elias to join them. It's time, he tells the boy, that you made some friends. And Elias, because he loved the man and could not refuse him anything, went. That is the memory. Here is what it cost. The friends, the master handpicked, the elites, the best of the best, are the same people who, one day, would turn on Elias and put him in the ground. He trusted them because his master asked him to, and it killed him. Not since the day he opened his eyes back at the beginning, he thinks, has he ever set that down. He has carried their grudge every single hour of this second life, a stone he never once let go of. The flashback ends there, because the fight has not. Whatever he feels about the people who broke him, it goes back into the box, and what comes out is the work. He switches to Stellar Mage and reshapes the battlefield with a violet upheaval, the class's own signature, and it throws the general off its footing for the first time, all fight. Everything after that happens in a single breath. The instant his weapon buries itself in the target, he stops being a Stellar Mage. He switches to Cloud Mage and freezes the thing solid around the blade, pinning the monster and the sword inside the same sheet of ice. Then he switches one last time, Nuclear Warrior, and with the full weight of that class behind him, he tears the key loose. 3 classes, 3 switches, 1 motion, faster than the eye watching him can separate into steps. The general is locked in the frost. The sword is in Elias's hand. He turns from the frozen giant without giving it a second glance, because it has already stopped being the point. Across the room, the oldest thing in the abyss watches a peak D-rank commoner do the one thing that centuries of gods assumed could not be done. Elias crosses to the chain and fits the key to the Star Soul lock, and the runes that have held for longer than kingdoms begin, quietly, to give. The Demon Lord's restraints shudder as the mechanism finally recognizes what has come to open it. "You actually did it," he says, and for once the ancient thing does not sound bored. He does not sound like a prisoner anymore. He sounds like something about to be let out. The key turns. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the seal comes apart all at once, and something begins to unfold out of the dark below. Horns first, then the rest of him. The chained thing Elias came all this way to find is no longer chained. The Demon Lord takes his true form for the first time in a very long while, and he sounds almost amused. "The boy actually pulled it off," he says. Elias is not here to be admired. He reminds the Demon Lord of the words spoken a minute earlier, while the chains were still on, freedom in exchange for anything Elias cared to ask. The bill is now due. He asks for exactly one thing: wipe out the entire Legion, and let not a single traitor walk away from it. Because this Legion is not some stranger's army. These are the Demon Lord's own soldiers, the ones who sold him to the gods, took his land as their reward, and have stood watch over his prison ever since. He has spent a very long time listening to them through the dark. He calls them two-faced snakes, and then the chains stop mattering at all. What follows is not really a battle. Lightning pours off the horned figure in sheets, and the undead Legion comes apart where it stands. Elias does not watch from the sidelines. He moves through the wreckage himself, cycling his classes, a kick here, a bolt of his own there, until the field belongs to the two of them. Then his body reaches its limit, and the system quietly marks him as recovering, while the Demon Lord finishes the rest by hand. Some of the traitors still have enough left in them to beg. They tell him they had no choice, that bowing to the gods was the only way any of them survived. He asks whether being the gods' lapdogs felt better than serving him. The begging does not improve his mood. For the ones who wronged him worst, he has something slower in mind, and he says it without raising his voice, that he will carve them apart piece by piece until the last of them bleeds out. Then he does precisely that. One of the dying throws a final question at the boy who set all of this loose. Just who does he think he is? Elias does not answer him. The system answers instead. The Legion is gone. 100,000 experience lands, and a prize drops into his hands, a servant's soul, and it arrives locked. He cannot open it yet. So he stands there in the ruins of a betrayal a full century older than he is, holding a freed Demon Lord's debt and a soul he has no key for. None of this is an accident. Every piece of it was arranged by someone a long time ago. The dying traitor asked the right question. The answer is a life Elias has already lived once. Before any of that, there is a promise pointing the other way. The chapter opens on a memory. In the life he already lived, Elias's master gives him the mission meant for the life to come. When he returns to the past, he is to find the other 6 and set them loose. 6 more like the one now standing in these ruins. The heart the master gives him will find them on its own, the man says, when the time is right. Make them weapons against the gods. The master does not pretend it is noble. The gods brought this on themselves, he says, and he wants the whole rotten world they built on top of everyone else's suffering burned down to the ground. He grins while he says it. Then the memory lets go, and the present pays out. 3 of Elias's classes promote at once. Nuclear Warrior and Cloud Mage both to B rank, Stellar Mage to C, and a new door quietly opens. A hero's tower, whatever that turns out to be. For anyone else alive, 3 promotions in a single breath would be the work of years. The Demon Lord, catching his breath in his true form, is impressed a second time. Elias corrects the record. The demon lord did not free himself. Elias freed him completely, and he did it on purpose. When he is asked why, he does not reach for anything grand. This heart and this life, the man who sent him back is the one who gave him both. Freeing the first of the demon lords is only his first step toward paying that back. He says it plainly, and the moment does not ask for a joke. He does not explain any more than that, and the demon lord does not ask him to. The demon lord fills in the rest of what the gods buried. His home did not always sit in the dark beneath a floating city. The divine race slammed a barrier down from the upper layer and sealed the whole of it away, his land and him with it, and the humans below became slaves overnight. They are worked to the bone at the same tasks, over and over, with no way out, forever, all so the sky city overhead can keep floating and the party up top can keep going. Some of them have been down here so long they have lost track of their own names. It is, the demon lord observes, a fairly honest picture of how this world actually works. Elias reads it differently. The divine race is not careless. They would never leave anything standing that could bring their city down from the inside, which is exactly why the thing that can is worth finding. And he has been setting his pieces in place since before the hunt ever began. He looks up, past the ruins, at the Tower of Gods hanging over all of it, and he promises, flatly, without raising his voice, to take it apart, piece by piece. 10,000 feet up, the festival is already underway, and it is going exactly the way the gods hoped. Down in the arena, a cluster of captives is facing a monster the system rates as a B rank, a soul-stealing corpse called the Flower Mage Lord. Every one of the captives is a C rank at best. A C rank against a B rank boss is not a fight, it is a sentence, and all of them know it. These are not soldiers. They are students from the Eastern Territory's finest academies, sons and daughters of noble houses, who were told that being chosen for this season's hunt festival was an honor. One of them still cannot process it, that he was promised prestige and handed a slaughterhouse. Not long ago, every one of them opened a letter congratulating them, warmly and formally, on being selected for the honor of a lifetime. This is the honor. They argue about whether they can bring the thing down if they all rush it at once. They cannot, and underneath the shouting they already understand why. To the gods, none of them were ever people. At the end of the day, they are playthings, and the day has come to play with them. Far above the arena, the gods are watching, and they are having a wonderful time. They lounge on golden thrones with drinks in hand, laughing at the losers shaking like leaves, and they want more. One of them calls for the most brutal hunt festival in history, the way a bored man orders a second course. The monster obliges. It has already swallowed one captive whole, and now it turns toward the rest. Among them is a married couple. The husband puts himself between the boss and his wife. It is not enough. He goes down reaching for her, and she is left on the ground screaming his name over a body that has stopped answering. She does not run, because there is nowhere in the arena left to run to. The boss lowers itself toward the widow, and that is when the show is taken out of the monster's hands. The contestant the gods have ranked number 1 steps in, a cold, dark-haired young man named Gannicus, and he ends it in a single motion. Ice floods the arena, and the B-rank boss freezes solid where it stands, a nightmare turned into a blue dragon-shaped statue. For one breath, the surviving captives believe they might actually live. The number 1 does not so much as glance at the people he has just saved. The gods do not applaud. One of them is annoyed the show ended so cleanly, so quickly, before it ever got his heart racing. So he leans forward and hands the arena a new instruction, not to the monster, which is a statue now, but to his own people. Forget the monster. Turn around. Kill that woman. The widow, still on her knees beside her husband, lifts her head into the order. Back in the ruins, before the two of them part, the demon lord has more to give. He looks at Elias the way you look at something that should not exist and says the one Belphegor chose really is a fascinating creature. Then he explains the heart. The heart the master gave Elias, the one they call Belphegor's heart, can swallow elemental control of any kind and hold it. Elias has been quietly filling it for years. Now he empties it in a single breath. Every last drop of elemental control he has hoarded across this life, and the last one pours out at once, and his body drinks all of it. Elemental control maxes out, and something new wakes up. A lightning mage, his first gold class, a full tier above anything he has shown a living soul. Gold light comes off him in sheets. The demon lord watches the boy evolve and decides the gift should run both ways. He hands Elias his own magic ring. Day to day, it is a bottomless storage space, which is useful enough. Its other trick is the one that matters, that if Elias speaks the demon lord's name into it, wherever he is, he will come. Elias takes the ring and swears an oath on it, and in the swearing he uses a name, Liam Liu. Then he stops, because that is not the name he came all this way to find. Wasn't it Samael? The demon lord tells him that things happened, that somewhere along the way Samael became Liam Lu, and that only a very small handful of people he trusts are allowed to know that name. Elias is one of them now, so he says it back, plainly, and the two of them are, improbably, something close to friends. They part on a promise to drink until they hit the floor the next time they meet. Then Liam Lu tells him to go and bring the whole divine little playground crashing down around their ears. Elias summons a creature named Green to carry him and rides it back up toward the arena. He arrives to a scene already in progress. The god's order is still hanging in the air, kill that woman, in front of everyone, and the widow is on her knees with her hands raised, waiting for it to land. It does not land. A hooded figure drops into the arena between her and what is coming and asks, very calmly, who exactly gave anyone permission for this? Then he raises a fist of solid ice the size of a house and brings the whole cruel little performance to a halt. The gods cannot place what they are looking at. A mere contestant telling them no is impossible, so they scramble for another answer, that surely he must be some god's blessed, one of their own chosen humans, because nothing else should be able to do this. One of them can barely get the words out. And then someone looks at the leaderboard. Elias's scores are back on it. The boy every noble in the stands bet against, the one they were sure had died alone somewhere far below, is standing in the middle of the arena, still breathing. He is still breathing, and he has just made it personal. A god, shaking with fury, decides the rules were too kind. He gives a new command to the whole arena, to the monsters and the contestants and every soul still alive down there. Now it is their turn to get into the game themselves. The chapter opens inside a nightmare. A captive girl is lost somewhere called the Black Mist Forest, and a voice in the dark keeps promising she will never find her way out again. The Black Mist is a B-rank boss's illusion, and it has gone digging through her worst memory to build her a prison out of it. Inside it, she is small again, and the soldiers of the divine race are coming through her town. Her family hides in the dark. A hand clamps over a child's mouth so the men outside will not hear them breathe. It does not save anyone. She watches her father die, and then her mother over and over, because the illusion is happy to show her as many times as it takes. This is where Elias finds her. He walks into the nightmare after her, takes hold of her, and lays the truth over the top of the lie, that this is a dream, that it is over now, that she is safe. She comes back to herself, and everything in this place, he tells her, is about to be over too. Far above the arena, the gods are bored. The dying on the leaderboard is not fast enough for them, or cruel enough, and they have begun betting on which contestant goes next. One of them wants the whole thing to move along, so they reach for something called the Demon Enhancer. Even one of their own warns what it does, that a B-rank lord already in a frenzy, dosed with a stimulant on top of it, becomes a thing nobody down there can hope to survive. They use it anyway. The monsters turn feral, the bosses drop into rage mode, and Elias reads the danger at a glance, that an enhanced boss like this will slaughter every human still trapped inside the barrier. And then the thing he actually came here to do begins to happen. A system alert cuts across the arena. Power grid failure. The protective barrier, the wall that seals the arena and holds up the whole comfortable lie of the Sky City's safety, starts to destabilize. The nobles do not understand it yet. They ask with genuine confusion how something like this could simply break down. These are men who have spent their entire lives certain that no one would ever dare raise a hand against the divine. It breaks down because a boy has spent this entire festival quietly making sure it would, though not one of them will work that out in time. The alert finishes its sentence. Barrier system, total shutdown. The lights die, the seal drops, and in the dark over the arena, something enormous shifts its weight. A shape with wings and a very long neck turns toward the stands. And a noble who has spent his entire life being told he is untouchable opens his mouth to beg someone, anyone, for help. Before the city falls, it is worth knowing how it was supposed to be impossible. A god designed this place, and he designed it to last. The Sky City runs on two separate power systems. The first is an energy furnace holding enough magma to keep the whole city afloat for a solid month on its own. The second is a backup, waiting quietly behind it. Between the two of them, the designer promised, even if some hostile force ever breached the divine realm itself, the city would keep every last soul alive and go on hanging above the world, now and forever. That promise is about to be tested by a 17-year-old. Down in the ruins beneath the arena, the energy furnace takes a hit and goes up. Alarms climb. The order comes to switch over, to activate the backup power and keep the city in the sky. The backup does not save them. It does not save them because Elias put something inside the furnace first. One of his summoned creatures, a squat monster named Bruiser, has been down there the whole time, devouring the furnace from the inside, and it reports the job done without a scratch, then levels up to B rank on the meal. Elias moves through the collapse like a commander rather than a contestant. He tells his monsters to stop celebrating because none of this is over yet. His summons may not be the highest-ranked things loose in the arena, he says, but nobody should make the mistake of underestimating them. The enhanced boss, already in critical condition, throws itself at him one last time. Elias switches to Nuclear Warrior. Mighty monsters, proud humans, from where he is standing it makes no difference which. He hits the boss once. It is enough. The thing drops, and the system pays him out. 88,000 experience, a flower called a bone flower, 1,000 points on a board that has stopped meaning anything. A red-haired contestant watches him do it and finally understands what he is looking at, that after all of it, someone is standing in the middle of the god's own arena, unafraid of the divine race. Then the floor of the world moves. No one in the stands sees it until it is already happening. A dragon comes up through the underside of the city and drives straight into the support pillars from the inside. The pillars give. The floating city, the one built to hang above everyone forever, begins to come apart in the air. The nobles cast around for something to blame and find, instead, a name they have never once had to fear. An SSS-rank demon lord in his dragon form, Liam Liu. The thing Elias went down into the dark to set loose is now wrapped around the bones of the Sky City and pulling. And the truth of what they are watching reaches the men who believed they owned this world. This was never just a rebellion. Someone is declaring all-out war on everything the divine race stands for. The dragon does not slow down. Lightning rolls off it in waves and pours across the Sky City, and the great tower at the center of everything begins to buckle. On the god side, there is a scramble that will change nothing. Officers bark at the 8th Squad to reach the backup power, to find out what in the world just happened, as though an answer could put the city back together. One of them looks up at the shape in the storm and goes cold, because he knows it. This is the dragon that even his grandfather, a god, could never bring down, and it has carried a grievance longer than any of them have been alive. Liam Liu speaks as he tears the place apart, and what he says is not grand. They have kept their boot on his neck for years. It is time to pay up. He goes for the statues first, the enormous golden likenesses of the god's own ancestors, and he cracks them where they stand and drops them in pieces across the falling city. The majesty of the Sky City, the glory of the divine race. Both of them shattered in the space of a few minutes, raining down over the people who were told they would last forever. The divine realm is in ruins, and there is no version of the next hour in which it is not. So the gods do the only thing left to them, which is panic. Somebody take down the dragon, they shout, and nobody moves, because every one of them can see there is nothing to be done. You would need the gods' entire legion just to have a chance at the thing. One noble screams that he will pay 100 million to anyone who ends it. There are no takers. And as if a sky full of falling city were not enough, the monsters from the hunting grounds are loose in the wreckage too, hunting whatever is still breathing. Down in the ruins, the surviving contestants drag themselves back to their feet. They are awakeners. One of them reminds the rest, and it will take a great deal more than a collapsing city to finish them off. One girl only wants to go home, and one of the nobles, a green-haired opportunist named Alexander Yin, does the arithmetic that no one else is willing to touch. This was never a monster attack. Someone planned it. Someone brought the divine realm down and set the demon lords loose from the inside, and aimed the whole of it at the heart of the divine order. He is right about every piece of it. He simply has no idea that the person who did it is standing a few steps away, bleeding quietly, telling a wounded stranger to relax. Because to Elias, none of this is a catastrophe. It is an opening move. This hunt against the gods, the one they were so sure they were hosting, is a game that is only just getting started. His revenge starts here. The dragon is leaving. With the city in ruins and the god's legion finally on its way, Liam Liu takes his leave the way something that old and that patient does. He asks, almost amused, what the legion is even supposed to do to them now, after the price the divine race has already paid tonight. But he goes anyway. He tells Elias he will be waiting, that the moment his name is called, he will come, and that when that day arrives, they will tear down every last piece of the god's rule together. Then the enormous shape lifts up over the wreckage and is gone into open sky. What arrives in its place is the god's legion, doing what the gods always do a little too late. They clean up. Soldiers sweep the ruins and put down the monsters still loose in them, crushing the last of the enhanced bosses with exactly the kind of overwhelming force that would have been useful an hour ago. The backup power system comes fully online. The barrier climbs back to full capacity, power returns to the shattered sectors, and the survivors are gathered up and teleported out of the ruins to safety. The hunt festival is called It Is Over. On a leaderboard half buried in ash, the final standings settle into place. And then, standing in the middle of the rubble of their own floating city, the gods hold their award ceremony. The winner is not a noble. Elias takes first place. The presenter calls it well-earned, praises the boy's nerves of absolute steel, and does not understand the smallest fraction of what he is congratulating. The prizes come out. An S-rank weapon called Rivuous, a blade with no ceiling on it, the kind that keeps growing without limit for as long as its owner does, and an S-rank ring called Oracle, which he equips on the spot. The gods have just cleaned up a disaster, rebuilt their barrier, and handed their two finest prizes to the one person in the arena who brought their city down. Not one of them can see it. Off in the wreckage, their own investigators come the closest. The marks look like a monster attack, they agree, but one of them cannot let a single detail go. Why would monsters go out of their way to target the power systems, specifically, and nothing else? It is exactly the right question. They do not have the answer, and in the end, they decide they would rather not chase it. Elias listens to all of it, first place in hand, and a weapon that will grow alongside him for the length of the whole war, and thinks about the only thing that actually matters to him now. In the life he already lived, this city never fell. For the first time since he came back, he is standing somewhere his memory cannot follow. The dust over the hunting grounds has not finished settling, and Elias has already won the whole festival. First place, an S-rank weapon, and the small matter of a god's city knocked out of the sky. Not everyone is taking the result gracefully. A green-haired competitor named Alexander Yin shoves to the front, and he is furious. The way he tells it, the boss was his one clean hit from the kill when Elias swooped in and took the whole prize. The trophy, the S-rank weapon, and the spotlight in front of the entire divine race. It is a moving speech. It is interrupted by the god who paid for him. Yin, as it turns out, was an investment. A divine noble put 100 million on him to take first place, and Yin came back with nothing. So the noble beats him where everyone can watch, calling him a disgrace, a gold-ranked divine class who lost to a scrawny nobody from the middle of nowhere. The nobody in question stands a few feet away, watching a man get punished for failing to beat him. The noble is Luke King, and he is not done. He turns on Elias, a backwater rat who scraped by on dirty tricks, and makes his real argument. In a clean fight, he says, this commoner would not hold a candle to a true god's blessed, and Luke King happens to own one. His name is Gannicus, a collared man with dark hair and a level, unhurried stare, kept at the noble's shoulder like a weapon that happens to breathe. This is where a god decides to make the day worse. The festival belongs to the Thebes family, and the one presiding over it is a son of a god. He has been watching Luke King all afternoon, and he knows exactly who arranged the disaster the festival became. So the god offers him a deal wearing the costume of a punishment. He strips the 100 million from Luke on the spot and hangs it in the air as a prize. Then he declares a bonus event, a one-on-one Awakener's duel. Elias against Gannicus, 1 round, winner takes the money. For Luke, it is a chance to win back every coin he lost. This time, with the gods blessed, he should have fielded from the start. Refusing is not really on the table. Telling a son of a god no, in front of the gods, is the same as spitting in their faces. A boy from a school of 5 students is being marched into a ring against a divine's personal enforcer. Elias's classmates say the part everyone is thinking, this is actually happening, right here, right now. Elias agrees to the whole thing without complaint, privately deciding this is neither the time nor the place, and keeping that entirely to himself. Then Gannicus opens his mouth, and he becomes the one problem nobody warned Elias about. He is not a thug reaching for his fists. He is thinking. A great deal went sideways in Sky City today, he says, and his gut tells him the person behind it is standing somewhere in this crowd of competitors. Whoever they are, they have kept their real strength buried and schemed quietly for a very long time. Then he turns to Elias and asks, pleasantly, what his read on it is. Elias tells him he has no idea and apologizes for being useless. Gannicus studies him for a moment and says, fair enough. He wishes him good luck and walks to his end of the arena. And Elias, watching him go, understands he has a problem. Gannicus is already tracing the dots back toward him, which means the small, harmless act he has been performing all year has a deadline now. An icy platform rises between the two of them. Knocked off it or knocked out on it counts as a loss. 1 round, and that is all. Elias looks across at the man he has been ordered to beat, and for the first time all day, something behind his eyes moves. He knows this man, not from this festival, and not from this city, from a life that ended with Elias face down and executed long before anyone in this crowd was born. Gannicus, of all the faces the world could have set across from him. Even now, even in this life, the two of them end up right back on the same stage. Before the duel begins, the story goes back a lifetime, and it opens on a wanted poster. In his past life, the divine race marked a man for death and papered their world with his face. The name on the poster is Gannicus, and his only crime is that he ran. They call his kind divine defectors, and they send a whole legion to drag them home alive when it happens to be convenient. The hunt tracks him to an island called Manga, to a small house by the sea. He is not surprised to be found. He already knows there is a tracking device buried inside his own heart, and that no one in this world has ever slipped the god's grip. It does not matter where he runs. So he makes the only choice left to him if he is going to die anyway. He will die on his own terms, and he reaches for a blade. And then the memory jumps back further still, to before any of that. To two people who used to hunt monsters side by side. There is a beach, a speared creature roasting over a fire, and a great deal of cheerful shouting about who gets to land the finishing blow. There is drinking, there is laughing. One of them floats a wager, a little bet on which of the two of them ends up dead first. It is a joke, the kind only people standing over a grave can make. Back then, Elias stood squarely on the side of the gods, and Gannicus stood on the exact opposite side, with a price on his head. Elias, narrating from a whole life away, admits he did not see it for what it was. To the ones who ruled them both, neither of them was ever more than a bug, to be crushed between two fingers the instant it stopped being useful. Then the memory ends, and the two of them are here again, back on the same stage the divine race built for them to perform on. This time the duel is not a sparring match. Elias answers first, with ice, and the air around him turns to frost and hanging knives. Gannicus answers with fire. The two forces meet head-on in the middle of the arena and level the structures standing around it. The stands scatter, civilians scream and run, and the dust rolls in so thick that half the crowd is left shouting that they cannot see a thing. The half that can see calls them exactly what they look like, two absolute monsters, ice and fire colliding head-on. From the safe seats, the nobles scream at Gannicus to put the country boy in the ground. They needle him about the little town he came from, the people still living back in Manga, as if to remind him what they can still take. Even if these two brought the entire Sky City down tomorrow, one of them sneers. In the eyes of the gods, they will always be nothing at all. But Elias did not walk into this ring to win a duel. To him, this much resistance is not even close to enough. He is making the fight as loud and as ruinous as he possibly can, and he is doing it on purpose. His plan is to make the divine race, for the first time in 100 years, genuinely and deeply afraid. So he pushes it further, and the arena keeps coming apart, and the watching gods lean forward instead of away. And then, in the thick of the dust, where not one of them can see his mouth move, Elias gets close enough to Gannicus to speak under his breath. "Hey Gannicus," he says, to the man he is supposed to be killing. "Do you want to—" Whatever the rest of that sentence is, it never reaches the crowd. It reaches Gannicus, and it stops him dead in the middle of his own swing. For a moment, Gannicus cannot make the words fit anything he knows. He has no idea why his opponent would say a thing like that, here, in the middle of a fight to the finish. And while he is still reeling, the duel keeps moving. Elias presses him back toward the lip of the platform, and the crowd begins to call it the commoner is pulling ahead. Then, at the last possible moment, Elias does something almost no one in the arena can follow. He throws it. He lets a frost phantom take the hit in his place and makes it look cleanly and completely, like Gannicus has knocked him clean out of the ring. The stands erupt, and Luke King howls that this is exactly what he told them would happen. The nobles marvel that a backwater nobody pushed, a gold-ranked gods blessed, this far before losing a version of events they are happy to live with. Only one person on that platform knows it is a lie. Gannicus felt the entire fight from the inside, and from the inside it was obvious the boy was holding everything back. He threw the match on purpose, and Gannicus cannot begin to understand why anyone would. Elias says it out loud, for the record, without any expression at all. He lost. And then, quietly, he tells the rest of it the part he has carried alone for a whole lifetime. In his past life, he admits, he did not understand it either. Not at first. Back then he was the god's weapon, and the man across from him was a defector with a price on his head. Elias was, without question, the stronger of the two. And still, no matter what he did that day, he could not finish Gannicus off. Gannicus never once thought about running. He planted his feet and kept coming, from the crack of dawn all the way to dusk. The whole time, Elias would only realize much later, Gannicus was steering wide of his vital points and leaving himself open again and again, fighting to last, not to win. It is not until he hears the device in Gannicus's chest give one final, dying signal that the entire day rearranges itself in his head. Gannicus was never trying to survive. He was buying time. Every hour he kept the executioner busy was one more hour for his hometown to empty out. Back in Manga, an ailing mother and a younger sister were waiting for him, along with every other soul he had ever cared about. His only crime had been wounding a divine named Luke King, and then refusing to lie down and die for it. That refusal is the reason the gods handed Elias the right to deal with him however he pleased. So Gannicus, beaten into the sand and out of tricks, tells Elias to just end it already. And Elias, who finally understands that every single thing this man ever did was for the people he loved, raises his blade. He drives it into the ground, a hair from Gannicus's head. He does not kill him. He strips away his awakened power, and he shatters the tracking device buried in his heart, the leash that let the gods follow a man to the ends of the earth. Then he reports in that the defector has been handled, and he walks away. Gannicus, somehow still breathing, asks him the only question left: why? Elias tells him that, unlike himself, Gannicus actually reached his mother in time. So live, he says. His family is still out there, waiting for him. Get as far from this place as his legs will carry him, leave the entire world behind if that is what it takes, and find somewhere the divine race will never, ever look. Keep living, Gannicus. And now, a lifetime after all of it, staring at that same face fitted with a god's collar, Elias makes him a different promise instead. This life, the two of them are going to build a world where no one ever has to run from anything again. The morning after a god city falls out of the sky, the divine race would like everyone to relax. A polished official stands in front of the survivors and assures them that yes, a great deal happened at the festival, but everything is firmly back under the divine race's control. To show there are no hard feelings, the Thebes family throws open a victory buffet. For Elias's classmates, 5 kids from a country the gods have never heard of it is more food than they have ever seen in one room. One of them announces his intention to personally eat 30 crabs. His teammates, Orion and Kay among them, toast him for taking first place, and the needling is affectionate. This is what teammates do, they tell him. Look out for each other, even when one of them keeps walking straight into danger. Orion, in particular, has been his classmate for years and his teammate in the field, and she matters to him more than he ever says out loud. It is, for a few minutes, a nice afternoon of all things. Then the scene drifts to another table and shows what the divine race is actually like when it decides the help is not worth watching. A noble has his human servant's hand pinned flat to the wood. The man disobeyed an order during the festival and destroyed a piece of the god's communications equipment, and now he is being corrected for it. The noble breaks his hand against the table and tells him this is the one and only pass he will ever receive. Then he leans in and delivers the part that actually does the work. Think very carefully, he says, about your sister. The servant goes completely still, because that is the entire point. This is the machinery running underneath the buffet, and it is worth understanding exactly how it is built. Line every living thing up from the top of the food chain to the bottom, and the shape of it is simple. At the very top sit the 5 gods. Directly beneath them is their own bloodline, the divine race, the first-tier nobility, roughly 100 people who own everything and answer to no one. One rung below that sit the gods blessed. It is the single highest position an ordinary human being can ever realistically reach, and the entire world is raised to want it. The rule is this: every member of the divine race may choose exactly one awakener for the rest of that awakener's life to serve as their personal guard. On paper, it is the ultimate honor. In practice, the moment a god pins that medal on you, you become their property, however cruel, however depraved they happen to be, and it is a nightmare you never once get to wake up from. Elias understands this better than anyone in the room because he wore that exact collar in his last life. And Luke King, in an excellent mood now that his 100 million has been handed straight back to him, decides this is the perfect afternoon to claim a god's blessed of his own. The awakener he sets his sights on is Elias. The whole table goes cold because he is about to try to own the boy who just humiliated him in front of the gods. There is exactly one thing standing in his way, and the other nobles are gleeful about pointing it out. He already spent his one pick. Gannicus is his god's blessed, and no member of the divine race gets a second. For a moment, it looks like a bookkeeping rule is the thing that saves Elias from the worst these people can do to a person. Then Luke stops sulking, and something uglier settles over his face. There is more than one way to get your hands on someone, and more than one god at this table with a pick left to spend. Slowly, he lifts a finger and it does not point at Elias. It points at the girl standing beside him. "I'm taking her," he says. "She will be the god's blessed." And Orion, who has done nothing in her life but stand next to the wrong person, has just become the way to break him. Luke King's finger is pointed straight at Orion, and it takes the room a moment to understand why. He is not claiming her for himself. He is claiming her for his little sister Alice, because a girl, the nobles all agree, ought to have a girl to guard her. There is one flaw in this generosity. Alice does not want a God's blessed, and she says so out loud. So Luke slaps her across the face in front of everyone, pats her on the head, and asks very gently whether she would like to reconsider. Alice, crying, decides that she would love a God's blessed after all. Good girl. No one at the table actually believes the part about the sister. They can all see plainly what Luke wants, and they find it funny the man has an eye for talent, and the girl is a stunner. Orion refuses to play along. She thanks Mr. King for the honor and turns it down flat. She is going to earn her place in the Gods Guild on her own merit, she tells him, and climb from there. One day she will be a God's blessed because she deserved it, not because a bored noble pointed at her across a buffet table. It is a good answer, and it is also the single most dangerous thing a human being can say in this room. Because Luke King does not hear a person politely declining, he hears property talking back. This is divine race territory, he reminds her, and he is divine race. And when a god speaks, it was never a conversation to begin with. He seizes her, tells her he has chosen her, and informs her that the only thing left for her to do is kneel and thank him for it. All around them, the other divines are laughing. They find the entire scene hilarious, humans talking back as though they have any ground at all under their feet. Being chosen is the greatest honor that exists, one of them sneers, and the girl should be on the floor with gratitude. In front of the divine race, the story states flatly, they were nothing. Luke stabs a piece of fruit off a plate, drapes an arm around Orion, and promises to treat her just like family. He is going to take very, very good care of her. And that is the sentence Elias has spent his entire second life refusing to hear again. His power comes off him all at once, in a wave of violet light. The divine race made the rules, he thinks, and the rules are for him to break. He crosses the length of the hall before anyone can so much as track the movement, and buries a fist in Luke King. Then he does it again, and the god who has never once been struck in his life goes down shrieking for somebody, anybody, to come and help him. The room grasps something it has never before had to grasp. This backwater nobody is genuinely about to beat a member of the divine race to death on the ballroom floor. The other nobles recoil, stammering that this one has completely lost his mind. And in the middle of all of it, Elias turns to the single person in the hall who is bound by a collar to stop him. Gannicus, standing at his master's shoulder, the man Elias once faked a killing to save. Quietly, the same way he said it under the dust of the duel, Elias says his name one more time. Hey, Gannicus. And at last, Gannicus understands what that whisper in the arena was really offering him. He understands exactly what his old savior has walked into this gala to do. For a few seconds, the entire ballroom watches a boy from nowhere do the one thing that is not supposed to be possible. His stellar power detonates in a skill called stellar upheaval, and Luke King, a member of the divine race, is beaten bloody on the floor of his own gala. A god's city already lies broken in the sea. A demon is already loose in the dark, and now a noble is face down on the marble, leaking. The reckoning against the divine race has only just begun. Then the rest of the divines remember there are 100 of them and one of him. They swarm, spears of gold drive him down, and they beat the boy bloody in turn until the moment is over. The nobles cannot make the picture add up. Something is wrong with it. Why would a boy this careful suddenly throw his whole future away over one girl? Only Gannicus, watching from behind his collar, recognizes the gesture Elias makes as they drag him under. He has seen it exactly once before, a lifetime ago. Orion sees only the wreckage. She asks him what he is trying to tell her, why he is always like this, why he never once spares a single thought for himself. Elias does not answer her. Lord Thebes gives the order, take him to the detention room. Any crime committed on divine race territory goes before the grand priest, and the charge here is publicly assaulting and humiliating a god. That is not 4 years in a cell, that is the death penalty, and it will be handed down before the sun comes up. The divines drift out satisfied that the commoner is finished. He held every card in the deck, and he burned all of them himself. They throw him in a cell and leave him there for the night. Every bar in it is forged from pure black demon crystal, the hardest material in existence. Not even an S-rank weapon can leave a scratch. It is a divine race detention block, built to the same standard as the holy prison itself, and at dawn they intend to move him somewhere far worse. Elias sits down in the middle of the floor, cross-legged, and waits. He does not wait long. Luke King, his face wrapped in bandages, kicks his way past the guards and demands the door to that animal's cage. He has come to gloat, and he has saved the worst of it for last. A death sentence by sunrise is coming, he says, but an execution would be far too clean a way to end this. First, he is going to tear Elias apart from the inside. He knows precisely how close the boy is to that Orion girl, and he has already had her brought up to his room. Tonight, he promises he is going to take everything Elias has ever cared about and grind it into dust. "You have no idea," he tells him, "what you have brought down on your own head." From inside the cage, Elias gets to his feet. He knows exactly what he has done. Garbage like Luke, he says, will never understand what he actually is, not even in his final moments. So no, he is not finished here yet. He closes one bloody hand around a bar of the crystal that no weapon in the world can cut. Gold begins to climb his arm, slow and bright and entirely wrong for a man who is supposed to already be beaten. "Then let's settle it," he says to the god on the other side of the bars. "Let's find out which one of us ends up on his knees, begging." First, that same night, on the other side of the city, a different kind of trap is quietly closing. Orion is handed a formal invitation to a god's blessed ceremony to be held tonight at the divine quarters, and not, she notices, anywhere public. Something about it is wrong, but she also knows that running now would only send the whole situation spiraling further out of control. So she goes, telling herself she will find a way to talk everyone through this. They walk her to a room and tell her to step inside. She asks where Alice is, since Alice is supposedly the one this was arranged for. Alice is not there. Luke King is lounging with a glass of wine, and he explains that, as the girl's older brother, he gets to decide whether Orion is even worth the title. The room is already wrong in the small ways that matter: a torn ribbon on the floor, a shape slumped in the corner, every window gone dark. He has had everyone within a full kilometer of the house cleared out. Orion does not flinch. She tells him plainly that she will not be taking the position of God's blessed. She had him pegged, she says, as a man with a brain. Luke finds this very funny. So she intends to defy the divine race? Everyone who has ever tried that, he reminds her, ended up dead. Then he drops the pretense completely. She is not here for his sister, and she is not here for any title. She is here for exactly one reason. She and Elias are close. It is written all over both their faces. He cares about her, and she cares about him, and that is precisely why Luke had to have her. Whatever happens in this room, he tells her, is whatever he says happened. A commoner attacked a member of the divine race in the dead of night and fled the moment the attempt failed. Walk out that door and she is a divine defector, a failed assassin hunted to the ends of the earth for the rest of her life, and every teacher and classmate who came with her is dragged down beside her. There are no witnesses, no one within a kilometer, and no one, ever, questions the divine race. He is the law here. Orion fights anyway. Her eyes burn gold and frost sheets across the room, but she is injured, and she is honest enough to admit the truth to herself. A God's blessed is in a completely different league, and she cannot win this fight, not right now. Luke lays out the plan for her, because the plan is the cruelest part of all of it. First, he breaks her. Then he makes certain she is watching when they execute Elias, who is sitting in a black demon crystal cell across the city as they speak, waiting to be put to death. Orion, bleeding, tells him she will die before she ever lets him touch her, and that is the moment the wall comes apart. Violet light floods the room, a skill called stellar upheaval, and a boy steps out of the smoke who is supposed to be locked inside an unbreakable cell on the far side of Sky City. Luke drops to his knees, and every ounce of the arrogance drains straight out of his face. "Nothing can break a black demon crystal prison," he says. "It is not possible. How did you get out?" Elias looks down at him. "That," he says, "is the one thing you are never going to get to know." Elias never does tell Luke King how he got out. So roll the clock back an hour and a half to a cell no one has ever walked out of. It is 8:28 in the evening, inside the Awakener detention block. Two guards sit outside 3 doors of solid black demon crystal, talking themselves calm. One of them admits he is honestly afraid the boy might break loose. The other tells him to relax, because nobody is going anywhere. Inside, Elias is not wasting his time on the doors. He is doing something much quieter with his hands. In his past life, he learned a rule that governs every high-grade item in this world. Each one can be farmed a maximum of 4 times before it stops dropping. So back at the academy, he ran the Spirit Jade dungeon 20 times over and walked away with all 4 pairs of teleport pendants it would ever surrender. 1 pair he already spent, this life, getting his mother out and somewhere safe. Another pair he left in her hands in case she ever needs to run. That leaves 2 pairs and exactly 1 attempt. He has also brought company. A demon he keeps materialized at his side, one that reports what his own eyes cannot see, and right now it tells him that Luke King has just made this far easier than it had any right to be. Luke has cleared every guard and every soul for a full kilometer around the house where Orion is being kept. The demon offers to crush the jade pendant and pull Elias across. Not yet, Elias tells it. He can only be away from the prison for so long before someone notices the cell is empty, so this has to be timed to the second he moves when it matters most, and he ends it as fast as is humanly possible. Then he crushes the pendant. Frost blooms across Luke King's room, and Elias is simply there, standing over Orion. He tells her he has her covered, that it is all clear, and all around them the guards are already on the floor. Orion asks how he can possibly be here. He tells her the truth, without any drama at all. He came to kill someone. Luke, scrambling backward, orders his gods blessed to take Elias out, and when Gannicus is slow to move, he threatens to have every last person in Gannicus's family killed. Elias, wrapped in violet fire, asks Gannicus a single question. Does he remember what he promised back in the ring? Gannicus says that he does, and Elias takes him out of the fight with one strike, exactly the way the two of them agreed he would, leaving Luke shrieking about traitors and deals cooked up behind his back. Luke runs. Elias closes a prison of stellar light around him on every side. The god screams for his guards. The guards, Elias reminds him, are precisely where Luke ordered them to be a full kilometer away, because nobody questions the divine race. His own cruelty is the entire reason no one is coming to save him. Then Elias turns, one last time, to Orion. What happens next, he tells her, has nothing to do with her. She was never here. She never saw a thing. He raises a wall of stellar energy between the girl and the caged god, so that whatever comes next, she will not have to carry it. Luke, boxed in and bleeding, finally asks what exactly he is planning to do. Elias tells him that he already knows the answer to that. The divine race's day of reckoning. It starts now. The divine noble on the floor has run out of threats, so he moves on to money. He promises no charges and no consequences, swears that Elias and the girl can both walk out of here free. He tells Elias to name a price, wealth, power, luxury beyond anything a commoner has ever been allowed to want. Elias lets him reach the very end of the offer. Then a bone in the man's hand snaps, and the price stops mattering. That one, Elias tells him, was for Orion. What follows is not a fight, because a fight needs two people in it. Elias takes the noble apart the way you break down something you have already decided to throw away. A finger, a hand, a leg. The man who spent his life being bowed to is screaming in the dirt now, begging, offering a full confession to every crime the divine race has ever buried. He swears he was wrong, that he is sorry, that he will tell the whole city the truth if Elias will only stop. Elias does not stop. Violet force clamps around the man's leg like a trap, and the screaming climbs an octave. The noble drags himself backward across the floor, telling Elias to stay away, to not come any closer. There is nowhere left in the room to crawl to. The threats crawl back instead, the way threats always do, that he will never get away with this, that his whole family will make him pay. Elias asks him, almost gently, whether he truly believes that. He has broken this man for Orion, and for every person the divine race ever collared and called blessed. The last blow, he saves for himself. Then the violet light of the stellar mage folds over him, and the noble who bought and owned people for sport is pressed into the floor and not given back. Orion asks if he is dead. Elias tells her yes. She looks at the ruin of the man who captured her and says that all of this is her fault. He tells her to carry none of it. He was always going to kill this one. The only thing she changed was the date. Scum like that earns 1,000 deaths, he says, and he means every single one. And then, quieter, the only question that has ever actually mattered to him: what happens to her now? The guards have only been pushed back a kilometer, and sooner or later, someone stumbles onto a scene like this. So he tells her to run, right now, out of Sky City, and not once to look back. He will stay behind and make himself impossible to miss, pull every eye in the city onto himself, and buy her the time to vanish. For one moment, the noise drains out of the world. There was a night, a long time ago, when she was the one holding him together. When she promised him he was strong enough to make it out, that once he was clear of all of it, he would be okay, that she knew he would. And he promised her back, the way you promise someone you cannot stand to frighten, that he was going to be fine. He is not certain he believed it then. He needs her to believe it now. So she runs, and Elias stands alone in the wreckage he made and waits. Out in the dark, someone is already walking toward this room, someone who is going to step forward and take the fall for every part of it. He will be here soon. Once, someone taught Elias what a team is. That you fight to the last inch of yourself for the people beside you, no matter the cost, because when everything comes apart, they are the only ones you can trust with your life. And someone else taught him the opposite. A man who stood at the edge of the same battles and watched his own teammates walk into the dark, over and over, and in the moment it counted most, smiled, and drove the blade in deeper. Elias will get to that man eventually. Elias has been on both ends of that blade. Tonight he is the one holding it, and the divine race is about to learn what he does with it. The revenge does not begin with the killing. It begins with a letter. In the divine race's own name, in a careful forgery of their own hand, Elias writes an invitation and sends it to a greedy, green-haired opportunist. Had the man taken the bait and shown up, he would be the one wearing the murder of a divine. Next, Elias picks a loud and stupid fight with Luke King in front of the whole banquet and gets himself thrown into a cell. On purpose. A commoner locked in the detention block cannot possibly be out committing a murder. That is his alibi, built with his own 2 hands. Every step of this he laid out in advance, down to the smallest detail, and then set it running like a machine. The last piece is the signature he leaves at the scene. Every scorch, every wound, every fracture torn through the stone reads as the work of one specific class. A stellar mage. Every last mark of it. The kind of evidence a court cannot argue with, pointing straight at a killer who was never in the room. It is a class that nobody in this entire city knows Elias has. To the whole world, he is a powerless commoner student from a country too small for the gods to have heard of, which is precisely why the trail runs everywhere except toward him. That night, the divine race's quarters go up in flame. Guards scream for water and containment, while a summoned green beast turns the corridors into chaos. And through the smoke comes a sentence the gods have never once had to say about themselves. A member of the divine race has been assassinated. On their own grounds, under their own guard, on a night they believed themselves untouchable. They tear through every soul on the premises, hunting the culprit. What they find is unmistakable stellar mage work, and the green-haired opportunist standing far too close to it, swearing he knows nothing about any of it. The blame closes around the scapegoat exactly where Elias built it to close. The gods are so certain of their own supremacy that it never once occurs to them to look at the boy in the cell. Their arrogance is not a weakness he has to exploit. It is the whole weapon, and they are the ones who handed it to him. The proud, untouchable divine race humiliated on their own floor by a killing they cannot pin on the commoner who actually did it. This, Elias tells himself, is his revenge. But it is only the beginning. He does not smile when he thinks it. This is arithmetic, not triumph, and there is a great deal of it still left to do. And then, in the quiet afterward, a door opens on his cell. A man from the Thebes family lets himself in, unhurried, like he already owns the lock. He looks at the boy the whole of Sky City has written off as finished, and he asks him what he would say to a little deal. In a single day, the whole world came apart. Sky City, the floating seat of the gods, fell out of the air, and the abyssal dragon chained beneath it walked free. The newspapers cannot decide which disaster to lead with. A suspect is caught red-handed and hauled off to the holy prison for the killing of the divine noble Luke King. A god's blessed and a young woman were found at the scene too, but both say the trauma burned that night out of their memory. That woman is Orion, keeping the only promise that matters. And one more man is thrown into the Awakener prison of Sandhaven for the crime of publicly assaulting a member of the divine race. That one is Elias. He will be tried on the 30th of June before the Grand Priest himself. The gallery has already made up its mind. A commoner put a direct descendant of the gods into a critical coma, and nobody walks away from that. The charge is read, the regulations are cited, and the court asks whether there are any objections to the obvious verdict. To understand how Elias answers, back up 2 nights, to the dead of night in the detention block. A man from the Thebes family comes to his cell with an offer, "Join the family, work for me, and Sky City never touches you again." Elias tells him, politely, that a low-level, nobody like himself is not cut out for such heavy work. He says he has no idea what the man is even talking about. The Thebes man only smiles and tells him the single rule this entire world runs on. The truth is, whatever the divine race says it is, which means every scrap of evidence in Elias's favor is worth nothing unless someone powerful decides it is worth something. Elias turns the deal down flat. The man is unbothered. He says the boy simply is not ready to play yet, and that one day the two of them will work together. Back in the courtroom, the priest asks one last time if anyone objects to the verdict. Elias says nothing, and a voice from the gallery answers for him. The Thebes family objects. The same family whose offer he refused rises to its feet and enters the testimony and the forensic evidence from the scene. Luke King struck first. Luke King ordered his own god's blessed beast to maul the boy. Under the regulations, a coma born of pure self-defense is no crime at all. The truth, it turns out, became worth something the instant a powerful family chose to spend it. The emblem of the gods glows, and the gavel comes down. Elias of J Country not guilty, on every last charge. He is free to go. He walks out through the great doors while the guards are still working out how the commoner won. His classmates are waiting, shouting that he is not going to the slammer, that they can all finally go home together. Orion just breathes out and thanks a god she does not believe in. And then a voice he was not braced for calls across the courthouse steps. A bearded man in a loud Hawaiian shirt, grinning like the two of them are already friends. The guards move to grab him, and he waves them off like weather. He tells Elias he simply had to meet the guy who gave a divine the beating of a lifetime. He does not know Elias. He has never met Elias, not in this life. But Elias knows him. Elias would know him anywhere. This is the master, the one person across 2 lifetimes who ever bet on him. Alive. Here. Grinning at a stranger. His first reunion with the master this life is on a set of courthouse steps, and the master has no idea who just found him. To understand the man on those steps, you have to go back a whole lifetime, to a cage. Elias is 17, chained to the wall of a prison built for the worst the world has ever produced. A guard beats him and asks, between the blows, how many times he has to be told. The boy does not answer. The only company he has is a bearded prisoner across the block, who screams through beatings of his own. That man is the only memory Elias has of what a person is even supposed to look like. The violence, the screaming, the bloodstains, this is the entire shape of his world. He is here because he did the one thing no one of his kind has ever done. Every awakener is sorted at birth into a rank, and Elias was born into the very lowest one there is, green. Green does not advance. Green is not supposed to be capable of it. Elias advanced by beating a man to death. The crime was brutal enough that they shipped him straight to the death row of the Awakener prison of Sandhaven, and that is where the bearded prisoner finally takes an interest in him. He asks how a green class jumped clean to platinum, a thing that happens maybe once in a million births. He asks who the boy killed to climb that high. Elias asks how he knew. The man answers it easily. The person he himself killed was his own father. Then he stands and mentions that the warden only made him dress like an inmate so he would blend in. He is not a prisoner at all. He is the chief of the 6th division of the Gods Guild, and he has simply decided to walk Elias out of the cage. He does not offer a choice. He does not make a speech. He just says, "Come with me." And the door that has held the boy for months opens like it was never locked. He sets the boy down in front of his squad and tells them to take care of him. The squad is not thrilled. It has been 2 months, and the boy has not said a single word to anyone. His numbers do not live up to the platinum rumor. He charges in alone, does his own thing, and has no concept whatsoever of a team. One of them says the quiet part out loud. If he is really that strong, he does not need their help. The chief hears all of it, and bets on the boy anyway. He says that in his entire life, he has met only 3 people who triggered a natural advancement. Every one of them shared the same thing, a childhood too cruel to say out loud. The boy does not talk to people, he says, because he genuinely does not know how to trust a single one. He cannot win a fight yet, not because he is weak, but because right now he has nothing worth fighting for. People broken this thoroughly do not get back up on their own, but if the day ever comes that this one finds a reason to try, the chief says he is going to do something the world tells stories about. The boy hears none of it and feels none of it. He still does not know why he is even alive. He assumes he will spend the rest of his life drifting exactly like this. And then, with no warning and no invitation, a divine noble strolls into the 6th division. His name is Luke King. He has decided he wants a duel with the squad, for sport. And the one rule every awakener in the room already lives by is that you do not, under any circumstances, harm a member of the divine race. So they hold back, and Luke King throws them around the room one after another, like they are nothing at all. The squad holds back, exactly the way the rules demand. Luke King takes their restraint as proof of something. He wades through them, gloating, asking if this is really all the strongest guild in the world has to show him. A bunch of dead weight, he calls them. He drops squad member after squad member, and the room can only smile through it and flatter him, because the rules leave them nothing else to do. Any one of them could put him on the floor, and not a single one of them is allowed to. Elias watches it from the edge of the room. He has felt almost nothing since he walked out of that prison. Not fear, not loyalty, not much of anything at all. What he feels now, watching this, is the first real anger of his second life. He steps into the ring and tells the divine noble that he will be his opponent. It is finished in less than a round. The boy, who is not supposed to be able to advance, puts a direct descendant of the gods flat on the floor. For one breath, the squad is proud of him. The 6th division, one of them says, is not so worthless after all. It feels, to Elias, incredible. For the length of that one feeling, he is almost a person. And then he learns what this world actually is. Striking a divine is the single unforgivable act, and it does not matter in the slightest who started it. The guards come. Luke King shrieks that the deadweight dared to lay hands on the divine race, and Elias is dragged back toward a cell. Right when he is certain he will never see daylight again, they let him go. Just like that. Free to leave. No trial, no sentence, no explanation offered. He should feel relieved, and instead the wrongness of it settles in his chest like a stone. The 6th Division throws him a whole welcome home feast. They drink to Elias, making it back in one piece. Chandler, the red-haired one, loudly threatens to drink every man at the table under it, and then makes good on the threat. It is the kind of noise people make when they are working very hard not to say something. Something does not sit right with him. The chief, the one person he would look for in that room, is nowhere in it. And everyone at the table is a little too loud, a little too careful, all of them keeping something behind their teeth. He asks where the chief is. They tell him the chief picked up a job and will not be back for another month. Elias stares into his drink at his own reflection and knows, the way you always know, that every person here is protecting him from something. It takes enough rounds of drinking before the truth finally comes loose. The divine race wanted the boy's head on a spike. Had Elias faced another trial for touching Luke King, he would have been thrown out of the guild for good, and everything he had just started to build would be gone. And the chief, who has only ever, with everything in him, wanted to see this broken boy stand tall and become someone great. The chief made his choice. He did not pull strings. He did not call in a favor. He took the punishment himself. The divine punishment. The red-haired man beside Elias, Chandler, cannot meet his eyes as he says the words. And somewhere past the walls of this warm, loud, lying little room, a month of something terrible is already underway, with the chief standing at the center of it, in Elias's place. Chandler tells Elias not to go looking for him. That place will kill you, he says. The chief is the only person alive who could even survive it. Here is what the divine punishment is. An oracle, the single miracle the gods will grant a person, can only be spent once in a lifetime. The chief already spent his, the first time, to break Elias out of that prison. So this time, to keep the boy alive, he could not simply wish the sentence away. He went to the gods, made a deal, and took Elias's place. To accept the divine punishment, you go in alone. You fight your way through a forest that is nothing but monsters, one after another, with no one at your back. It is built to break a person long before they ever reach the mountain. Then you climb Divine Punishment Peak with your bare hands, a mountain that cuts straight up through the clouds. And at the summit, you stand and take 1 full month of lightning, 30 days. No shelter, no mercy, no end until the month is served. Elias goes anyway. He tears through the forest. He climbs until his hands are ruined, and then he keeps climbing. Every reason he has ever been handed to quit is somewhere behind him, and he uses not one of them. And at the top, through the storm, he finds him. The chief is chained to the summit, bruised black, a month of lightning written across his body, and he is smiling. He tells the boy he actually fought his way all the way up here. He says plainly that he is impressed, and the boy, who does not know how to feel things, comes apart. Elias asks him why he keeps doing this, saving him, again and again. He spent his one oracle on him. Now he is letting his own body be broken in his place. And for what? For a nobody who ruins everything he touches, who never understood a single thing, who is reckless and stupid and completely selfish. I'm nobody, the boy says. He has believed that longer than he has believed anything. The chief, chained and bleeding and still grinning, tells him to listen to himself, to really listen for once in his life. And then he says the thing that no one, across 2 whole lifetimes, had ever said to him. No matter what happens, he says, "You are my disciple." And Elias's eyes, for the very first time, catch and burn gold. Not a class, not a skill. The actual boy, finally deciding he is allowed to exist. A month of lightning could not put the chief down, and one sentence out of him just brought the boy all the way back to life. He runs the last stretch, reaches the chains, and holds on. He asks if the lightning hurt. The master laughs, says it is the first time he has ever seen the kid look this frantic, and tells him he is finally himself again. And that is where it all comes back to now. To a courthouse and a bearded man in a loud shirt, alive, every one of those scars still somewhere under it. In the life before, Elias met the master inside a prison, so in this one he let himself be thrown into a prison, hoping to cross paths the very same way. He never once imagined it would happen out here, in the open, with the man walking up to him free. The master claps a hand on a stranger's shoulder, delighted, and asks him a question. And everything Elias does next depends on how he answers it. The master claps him on the shoulder and asks if he would like to join the 6th Division. Elias should say yes. Every part of him wants to say yes. The man in front of him, in the loud shirt, already drawing a crowd of autograph hunters, is not just anybody. The 6th Division is one of the 6 that rule the entire Gods Guild, and its captain is the most famous name in the world and the hardest of all of them to pin down. The onlookers cannot believe what they are seeing, the captain himself offering some unknown kid a spot right there on the spot, and Elias is being handed the exact same open hand that saved his life once before. But he has stood at this man's grave. In the life before this one, he lost him, and he has never for a single day stopped feeling it. What Elias has to do in this world is far too dangerous to survive twice. He cannot drag the master into it again. He absolutely cannot. So he closes his hand around the offer and lets it go. I'm sorry, he thinks, to a man who has no idea what he is being apologized to for. He does take the card, because refusing it outright would say far too much, and he tells the captain only that he is staying in Sandhaven to sit the Divine Armament Academy entrance exam. The captain laughs, says that tracks, that the kid has real ambition, and tells him the door is always open. Someone else has been watching that whole exchange. Orion pats him on the shoulder and asks what the look on his face is about. The look he just gave the captain, she says, is the exact one he gave her the very first time they met. After everything that happened at Sky City, she has done a lot of thinking, and a lot of it has started to click into place. In this world, she says, anything can happen. He might have lived a life no one else has ever come close to living. Something like that happened to her brother, once. Her brother told her one day that somewhere he had been a completely different person, living a completely different life. She had no idea what he meant. After that, he only got quieter and more distant, further and further away until one day he was simply gone. She does not want to watch that happen to Elias. When the day comes that he wants to talk about it, she says, she will be there, whenever he is ready. And she is very, very good at keeping secrets. Thank you, Orion, he says, and means it. That night, the students from J Country board their train home. The cultivation trip is over. And Elias's real time in Sandhaven finally, truly begins. Sandhaven is the richest and most powerful country on the map. The catch is that nearly all of that wealth flows straight to the divine race and a handful of mega-rich merchants, and for everyone else, simply living here is a slow financial bleeding. The Academy's opening ceremony is the 1st of September, less than 2 months out. If Elias means to operate outside the reach of the divine race, there is one thing he needs before all others: his own guild. And a guild takes money, a great deal of it, so he walks into the largest demon material market in the world, lit up for the night. To the one place where he and an old friend first met, a lifetime ago, the Nami Exchange. Old friend, he says to the doors, I'm back. The Nami Exchange is the biggest demon material market on the planet. Every awakener worth anything ends up here eventually. When two fighters are evenly matched, the thing that decides which one walks away is almost always the gear. Elias comes in hauling a sack and asking to sell some materials. The girl at the front desk barely looks up. The boss is very busy, she tells the kid. She can appraise whatever little thing he has and send him on his way. You really haven't changed at all, Elias says, to a woman who has never met him. Then he opens his hand and empties his magic ring out onto the counter. A small mountain of materials spills across it: steel bone, iron fangs, magic elements by the dozens, and not one piece of it is junk. The front desk stops being bored. A VIP, she announces, to the entire building. They have an actual VIP. There is suddenly not enough counter in the room to hold what this kid walked in with. They rush him back to the owner, a man named Charles Yu, who takes one look at the hall and forgets how to be dignified. Get it all out, he says, and let him have a look. Pile after pile, and every single one of them grades at least B rank. The quality, he admits, is genuinely something else. And then Elias tells him the real reason he came. He opens his hand again, and a blade of gold light takes shape above his palm. Charles Yu stops breathing. His daughter says it out loud. No way, that cannot be, because it is a weapon that grows alongside its wielder forever, with no ceiling and no limit. One of exactly one in the entire world. The untempered S-rank warrior's weapon, Rivuous. You really are exactly the same, Elias thinks, watching the man's brain switch off at the sight of a great blade. In the last life, Charles Yu was the one who forged the weapon Elias carried into the God's Legion. But the materials were never quite good enough, and the blade reached him already tempered, and it never once became the thing Charles was chasing. The perfect weapon, the one that haunts every smith who is any good and never once lets him sleep. So Elias sets a second pile on the table. Rare S-rank materials, a warrior's soul, a servant's soul, a poison sting, the kind of thing that is practically impossible to find, gathered along the way like souvenirs. Use them however he sees fit, Elias tells him. Break them down, fuse them, whatever the weapon needs. He has exactly one ask: temper this blade and make it something that truly belongs to him. Charles Yu, who has spent his whole life chasing one impossible weapon, is being handed it and asked to finish it. He asks the boy his name. Elias, he says, and puts out his hand. Charles takes it. Humble owner of the Nami Exchange, he says, and thank you for trusting me with this. He swears he will pour everything he has into it. He will make it the one and only weapon of its kind anywhere in this world. Far from the market, none of this is finished. The collapse of Sky City is not the sort of thing that quietly goes away. In the Gods Guild, the Divine Armament Academy's entrance exam invitation arrives again, the way it does every single year. And every single year, the captain of the 6th Division throws it out without reading it. This year, he stops. This year, he says he is going. There is going to be someone at that exam worth meeting. He does not say who. He just folds the paper, grins, and tells his lieutenant that if he has nothing better to do, he should come along and see for himself. The boy who intends to kill the gods has a more immediate problem. He is 17 years old and unemployed. Elias sits in a rented apartment in Sandhaven, taking stock of where the last few months left him. The Hunt Festival is behind him, and it paid. Everything he stripped off the dead monsters and sold came to just over 2 million. His classes have climbed too. His 2 strongest now sit at B rank, one of them gold tier, the rest coming up behind them. By any honest measure, that is a very good position for a commoner from a country the gods have never heard of. It is not enough. The whole plan has one gate standing in front of it, and its name is the Divine Armament Academy. Get inside, and he is standing shoulder to shoulder with the people who run the world. The entrance exam is 2 months out, and he already clears the requirement to sit it, which leaves him 2 months, a pile of money, and absolutely nothing worth hitting. His phone rings before he can brood about that properly. It is his mother, and she wants to video call. He has been quietly planning to buy her a house. He has the number ready, the down payment worked out, enough left over to keep her comfortable for years. She turns it down before he can finish the offer. She does not want a house. She wants to travel. She has spent her entire life raising him and never once went anywhere or saw anything for herself, and she would like to, now, while she still can. Elias sits with that for a second longer than he expects to. It occurs to him that across 2 lifetimes, he never once thought to ask her what she wanted. So he tells her to take the money and go wherever she likes, and to call him the moment it runs out. She cries a little, tells him to eat properly and to sleep, and hangs up. He keeps the house fund. He is going to need it for something else. Because there is a wall between him and the academy that money simply does not knock down. He is 17. He is too young to register for a solo license, and too young to be hired on as a proper awakener anywhere. There are no hidden dungeons left in Sandhaven for him to quietly grind either. The only door still open to someone his age is an internship at a guild, so the regressor who dropped a floating city out of the sky sits down and starts filling out applications. He sends 1, then dozens. Then, over the following weeks, more than 1,000. The replies come back in a slow, steady stack, and they all say the same thing in the same words. Thank you for your interest. Unfortunately, it turns out a student with no track record and no reputation gets ghosted at scale. This, he notes, is what job hunting actually feels like. He is on the edge of giving up on the front door and inventing another angle when one more notification lands. A single guild wrote back, and it isn't a rejection. Horizon Guild would be thrilled to have him aboard. Report to Alley Station, the afternoon of July 10th. He is in. Elias reads it twice, mostly because he cannot quite believe one of them said yes. On the 10th, he shows up exactly as instructed. A cluster of awakeners is already there, loading gear onto the platform, and a large man tosses him a uniform and tells him to get it on. Nobody explains anything to him. Somebody shoves equipment into his hands. Somebody else looks him over, calls him the new recruit, and asks if he knows how things work around here. He does not. He is a guild intern now, on his first day, with no real idea what the job actually is. He is about to find out. It is worse than he thinks. The job is called Cleanup Crew. It is exactly what it sounds like. Elias and the other new hire, a bespectacled teenager named Speedy June, spend their first shift at the bottom of a dungeon somebody else already emptied. The real awakeners mine the valuable cores up at the front. The interns handle whatever is left behind, which is mostly the parts that ooze. So the boy who has personally killed things that could level a district gets down on his knees and scrubs monster residue into a bucket. He did ask at the start whether they were going to clear a dungeon. The seniors found this hilarious. Clearing dungeons is for people like us. They tell him, not for interns, and certainly not for children. The mockery is casual, and it is constant. The 2 teenagers get handed the worst end of every job, and there is a reason for it that has nothing to do with skill. The interns didn't pay. Everyone else on the crew slipped the supervisor something under the table to land the decent work. The kids had nothing to slip, so the kids get the rot. Nobody even pretends otherwise. There is no money in bottom-rung work, one senior explains with a shrug, so everyone just takes it out on whoever is standing below them. One man on the crew refuses to play along. His name is Michael Chen, an E-rank nuclear warrior, which in this line of work is barely a rank at all. He is broke, he is kind, and when a senior starts riding the 2 interns, he steps in and takes the heat onto himself instead. He tells them not to take it personally, that this is just the world they were born into and that the least they can do is look out for each other. He mentions almost in passing that he has a daughter about their age. Family doesn't feed itself, he says, and gets back to work. It is the first decent thing anyone in this guild has done for them. Elias files it away. Then the ground starts to argue. A senior stops mid-sentence and looks up. Somebody asks, hopefully, whether that was an earthquake. It is not an earthquake. The dungeon they were sent down here to tidy up was never actually cleared. Something is still alive under the rock, and it has been waiting there the whole time they were mopping around it. Purple light comes bleeding up through the floor. And that, Elias realizes, is not even the worst part. This was never a low-level dungeon at all. The thing that drags itself out of the stone registers on the system as a cursed spirit, a warrior type, and B rank. A B rank monster. In a hole full of E rank cleaners and 2 unpaid teenagers, everyone who can run starts running, and the supervisor is screaming at them to get back. The math here is simple, and it is ugly. A B rank is not a difficulty the people in this dungeon can survive. There is exactly one person down here who can, and he knows it. He is supposed to be a 17-year-old with a mop and a bucket. Nobody on this crew has any idea what he actually is. For one more minute, he would like to keep it that way. The cursed spirit turns its head toward the students who cannot run fast enough, and the intern quietly sets the bucket down. When everything goes wrong, Elias thinks, people show you exactly who they are. Sometimes what comes out is courage. Sometimes it is pure, ugly selfishness. The crew gets a live demonstration of the second kind. As the B-rank cursed spirit lunges, one of the seniors panics. He is a flower mage, and he throws up a thick wall of vines, a good skill, reached for in the worst possible way. He does not wall the monster away from the team. He walls it in. And whether by luck or by pure cowardice, he seals it inside with one person still trapped on the wrong side of the vines, Elias. Then he shouts that he'll go flag down the rescue team, and he runs. Someone screams after him that he just locked the kid in there to die. He keeps running. So the intern is left alone with a B-rank monster behind a wall built by his own teammate. On the crew's roster, Elias is listed as unregistered, no class, no rank, just a blank the guild never bothered to fill in. He fully intends to keep it blank. So he does not open with the lightning or the frost or any of the 5 maxed classes that would end this in a single sentence. He fights it plainly, like a boy who got lucky and is trying not to die, and he lets the monster spend itself on him. The cursed spirit's whole nature is damage it hits, and it hits hard. So Elias turns that against it and reflects its own strength straight back into its body. It essentially beats itself to death trying to kill him. No flashy finisher, no signature move, nothing a witness could point to afterward and call impossible. When the frost settles, the B rank is a corpse, and the system offers him the drop, a set of cursed armor. He takes it, and he remembers to breathe like a boy who barely survived. The vine wall finally comes down. The crew rounds the corner expecting to bury a child, and instead they find the child standing over the thing they were all told to run from. Michael Chen cannot make it add up. Same class as him, he realizes a nuclear warrior, except this one is a teenager, and this one just cracked B rank on his own. Someone asks, half in awe and half in fear, what a kid with power like that is even doing on a cleanup crew. Elias waves it off. He offers to walk them through the technique later, keeps his eyes down, makes himself small. A weak kid who got a lucky kill is a story everyone can live with. He would much rather be that story. And then the vines rustle again. Something else was back there. Something the cursed spirit was only ever the warm-up for. It tears loose in a spray of purple, crowned, armored, and wrong in a way the first monster never was. The system takes a beat to name it, almost like it isn't sure it should. Dual class. A rank. A void lord. The B rank was the threat they could all see coming. This is the one that was always going to kill them. And Elias, still selling the part of the exhausted intern, works out how much of himself he can afford to show. An A-rank monster is a different category of problem. The Void Lord is a dual-class Chief Lord Stellar Warrior and Stellar Mage, both sitting at level 42. Dual class is rare enough in a person. In a monster, it is almost unheard of. There is a private joke in it that only Elias can hear. One of the classes this thing is built from, Stellar Mage, happens to be one of the 5 he keeps hidden. In a sense, he is about to fight a stranger's copy of himself. At full strength, this thing would tear the crew apart without noticing they were there. Elias has a decision to make, and it is the same one he always makes. He could switch to the class that ends this instantly. Instead, he keeps the single class he's let them see, Nuclear Warrior, and sets out to make the fight look hard. His opening blows land clean and do almost nothing. The thing is A rank. One class was never going to be enough, and he knows it. So he switches, quietly, in the middle of the chaos, and starts actually working. The Void Lord goes for the wounded first, the way these things always do. It closes a hand around an injured senior and promises, in the flat way monsters promise, to grind every last one of them down into nothing. Elias puts himself between the Lord and the crew before it can make that good. That part, he cannot fake the stepping in front. Here is where the performance begins. Elias fights the Void Lord like a boy hanging on by his fingernails. He huffs. He staggers. He burns healing potions and cracks open a magic ring like a panicking amateur who got in far over his head. He makes every perfect read look like a near miss he lived through by accident. It helps that the other new kid, Speedy Jun, is genuinely flailing beside him, chaotic, frantic, swinging at everything, which only makes the act look more real by comparison. And the crew buys every second of it. They watch a 17-year-old trade blows with an A-rank lord and keep landing the shots that matter, and they reach for the only explanation that lets them keep their sanity. This kid, they decide, is pulling all of this off on pure dumb luck. It is a strange thing to be pitied while you win. Elias lets them have it. A boy who looks lucky is a boy nobody bothers to investigate. And he cannot afford to be investigated, not with the academy exam 2 months out, not with the entire plan resting on him walking through those gates as a harmless nobody. So he keeps the mask bolted on. He bleeds for effect, sells the exhaustion, and grinds the A rank down one careful exchange at a time. Every time the Lord commits to a killing blow, the intern is somehow, luckily, already somewhere else. Every time it overextends by an inch, the intern somehow, luckily, makes it pay. The seniors keep whispering the same word back and forth like it's a prayer that might hold the ceiling up. Luck. It has to be luck. Elias, halfway through methodically dismantling an A-rank Void Lord with his cover still perfectly intact, decides not to correct them. He decides to end it. The mask stays on, but the work turns serious. Elias reads the Void Lord's last honest attack, slips underneath it, and calls the finish. Trinity Severance. 3 golden cuts, delivered as one motion. The last arm the Lord had left to swing with, he takes clean off. Then he takes the rest. The system confirms the kill and hands him the drop, a seal of the void. He pockets it, plants his sword in the ground, and remembers, at the last second, to look completely spent. Huff. Huff. For the audience, he isn't even winded, but the crew doesn't need to know that, and they're too rattled to notice. The rescue team reaches the surface just after it's over. It is led by the boss of Horizon Guild himself, a bearded man named Sean Zyman, who spent the entire ride out braced to arrive at a body count. He doesn't. Every single person walked out, and the survivors know exactly who to thank. Without the intern, they tell anyone who will listen, every one of us would be dead right now. Speedy June attaches himself to Elias on the spot and announces that wherever Elias goes from now on, he goes too. It is, Elias notes, the first time in either of his lives that someone has volunteered to follow him toward the danger instead of away from it. Elias waves the credit away, says it was all of them, says he just got lucky, says whatever keeps the story small and forgettable. And the adults, who cannot squeeze a solo B rank and a solo A rank into the shape of a 17-year-old intern, gratefully let themselves believe him. The young ones never cease to amaze, Sean says, which is the polite version of, I have decided not to think about this too hard. Sean, at least, is grateful in a way that costs him something. He tells Elias that the guild's rules about intern pay don't have to apply, that a kid who did what he just did is going to earn like the adults earn. There is a thread of guilt running under it too. The senior who bricked up the monster and bolted left 5 people to die down there, and that is going to sit with this crew for a long time. But everyone lived. And tonight there is a dinner. It happens to be Michael Chen's 5-year work anniversary, and for once, the interns are invited along. Elias slips out early and takes the road home. For once, everything has sorted itself out without him having to burn anything down to do it. Which is, naturally, the exact moment the world sends someone to find him. A motorcycle pulls up on the road ahead of him and stops. 2 people he knows are sitting on it. One of them is the ally Chandler. The other is his master, the man who is the entire reason Elias is breathing, in this life or the last one. They have been looking for him, it seems, and they would like to buy him a drink and talk. Elias has spent this whole life keeping the people he loves at arm's length, precisely so the gods can't use them against him. His master has never once respected that boundary. So he climbs on. They end up at a barbecue joint, the 3 of them, over cheap beer and grilled meat. Chandler keeps the glasses full. The master keeps emptying his. And for once, what comes out of him isn't a lesson. It's a story. And it's about Sean Zeman, the man who just offered Elias a real wage. The master and Sean grew up side by side, here in Sandhaven. Same school, same class, same graduating year, and each other's fiercest rivals from the very first day. They were the 2 brightest awakeners of their entire generation, both of them dead set on becoming the strongest alive. And then something broke Sean, his standing, his fortune, his name, and the two of them stopped speaking. What Sean never found out is that the master never actually left. For years now, quietly, from the shadows, the master has been funneling money into Horizon Guild to keep it standing. Without a word. Without credit. Without ever once walking back through that door. Elias listens to a man describe secretly funding his rival's whole life and says nothing. He understands it better than the master could possibly know. He has been doing his own version of the exact same thing. He looks at the crew he pulled out of that dungeon today, Michael, and the daughter he works to feed, Speedy Jun, 5 people out there right now drinking and laughing and alive, and he finally lets himself say the quiet part. This is what he came back for, not the revenge exactly. Not only that, here is the thing the gods do not know. In the life Elias already lived, that dungeon today did not have any survivors. Every single person on that crew was supposed to die under the rock, on schedule, according to a plan. Not bad luck, a plan. He has seen how it went the first time around, the heart monitors dropping flat, one after another, the whole team logged as a loss and quietly forgotten. The gods write the future out like a ledger, and every name on the page is already settled long before it's lived. And then a variable that was never supposed to exist walked into the bottom of that dungeon with a mop in his hands. He wasn't in the plan. He looked directly at the plan at something no mortal is ever meant to see, and he changed it. 5 people who had already been written down as dead went home tonight instead. That is the whole mission, underneath all the revenge. Reach into a story the gods finished writing a long time ago, and start rewriting it, one name at a time. He came back to be the thing the plan never accounted for, the variable with a will of its own. The one name on the page that refuses to end where it was told to. And far above the clouds, without anyone down here noticing, the plan of the gods just quietly changed. The trouble with rewriting a story the gods are still reading is simple. Sooner or later, they reach the part you edited. They are going to notice. 2 months to the academy. Up in Sky City, the divine race is already gossiping about the incoming class. Every invitation has gone out, and one name has the gods talking like anybody else at a dinner party. A prodigy, they say, out of some small nation not one of them has ever heard of. The gods find this novel. They should probably find it concerning. Instead, they send their seers to keep half an eye on the boy, the way you might aim a camera at something mildly amusing. Down on the ground, the prodigy in question is standing in his kitchen, hitting a wall. Both of Elias's lead classes sit at B rank, which is more than enough to pass the entrance exam. Getting past B rank is the problem. Leveling was never linear. The first rank up cost him a single day, the next one a week, the one after that a whole month. Past B rank, every single level feels like scaling an entire rank all over again. It is the exact reason most Awakeners reach C rank and simply stop there for the rest of their lives. To keep climbing, he has to keep killing things stronger than he is, and most people never even get the chance to face something stronger than themselves. The few creatures that could still push him now are the sort he would have gone out of his way to avoid, even in his last life. Elias has run clean out of monsters worth the trouble, which is when the system chimes. Ding! Activation conditions met. The hero's tower is ready to unlock. He accepts, and the kitchen falls away underneath him. Elias is pulled up into a starry, endless void, and a voice greets him warmly, like an old friend picking up an old conversation. Oh, hey there, handsome. It's Belphegor, the second demon lord Smoke in good manners, the one Elias freed once already. Elias asks, reasonably, how he is even here right now. Belphegor tells him not to make that face that he is being unfair, that Belphegor is the reason he kept climbing in the first place. He has been watching Elias climb this whole time, and he is, frankly, impressed. Only someone who bled for every inch of progress and never once stopped pushing could have reached this place, he says. And Elias did. So the Demon Lord makes him an offer. Everything Belphegor has hoarded across his own past lives, every drop of power, every hard-won scrap of experience, he has poured into the hero's tower. He drives the key into his own heart, Belphegor says, and they come flooding out. Inside the tower, Elias's enemies take shape as wild, untamed demon spirits. He fights them, he beats them, and each one he puts down converts straight into fuel for his own growth. These are not weak, Belphegor warns him. B rank is the floor in there, not the ceiling. And there is one more condition attached. The Demon Lord has cranked the difficulty up on purpose, because the only real path to strength is beating the version of yourself that existed yesterday. Then he asks the question outright. Do you accept? Elias takes the golden key the Demon Lord holds out, closes his hand around it, and drives it straight into his own chest. He is going to get stronger, he tells Belphegor, faster than anyone can imagine. The key sinks in. Light detonates around him. The hero's tower unlocks. The first floor of the hero's tower is a field of lava. Elias switches to his nuclear warrior class and walks in. Waiting for him is the tower's first guardian, a B-rank lava lion king, all fire and muscle and teeth. His first instinct is the smart one. Fire loses to cold, so he reaches to swap into his cloud mage and freeze the thing solid. The class switch doesn't work. Somewhere Belphegor is grinning. He did say he'd change the rules. And it gets worse. The lions are the same element as Elias himself, so his fire barely troubles them. Worse than that, they seem to know him better than he knows himself, reading each move a beat before he makes it, because they came out of him. There is no counterpick here, no perfect class, no clever answer waiting to be found. There is only the one thing Belphegor told him on the way in: beat the version of yourself that existed yesterday. So Elias stops hunting for the trick and simply gets better. What follows is a montage of the same fight, over and over. Gold light, a clean strike, the Lava Lion King falls, and the system pays out 20,000 experience. Then it stands back up, and he kills it again. And again, and again, the same king, the same fire, the same brawl, a fraction sharper every single time, until the loop stops being a battle and becomes a whetstone. This is the grind the Academy is about to walk into. This is the grind the gods are about to walk into. And Elias runs it in a burning room, off the clock, where not one of them can see him do it. Not one of them, that is, except the people who see everything. Cut to Sky City. Far above the ground, in a marble hall in the divine race's capital, a god is sitting down to dinner. His name is Nick King. He is the elder brother of Luke King, the little divine tyrant Elias, put in the ground back in the trial that started all of this. And that killing left one loose end, chained up in a dungeon. A green-haired man named Alexander Yin. Yin is the rival who took the fall for Luke's murder, framed, convicted, jailed for a crime he did not actually commit. And he still will not confess, because he is innocent, and he keeps swearing to anyone who'll listen that he was set up by someone from his own village. The investigation up in Sky City came back with nothing solid enough to hang him with. So a servant asks Nick King the obvious question: should they go track down this villager the prisoner keeps ranting about? Nick King, poking idly at his plate, says he has a better idea. Turn him loose. Don't execute the patsy. Free him. Let the framed man walk out with one grudge and one purpose burning a hole in him, and point him straight at the real killer. Let him do the hunting himself, because to a god, one mortal chasing another isn't justice. It's entertainment. Nick King doesn't actually want the killer caught. He wants a show. And Alexander Yin, cut loose and half broken, now has exactly one name left to find the man from his village who ruined his life. He has no idea that the name at the end of that thread belongs to a boy currently farming lions in a demon lord's tower. He'll find out. Nick King spears a live octopus off his plate and eats it whole, the tentacles still writhing as they go down. His little brother's death, he decides, chewing, wasn't such a waste after all. These small fry nobodies don't have a single thing to their name, and yet they just love to tear each other apart. Isn't that precious? Now the gods get to kick back and enjoy the show all over again.